Doraemon's daily check-in system. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251 Help. After Nobita saw Shizuka leave, he also had no intention to chat with Fat Tiger and Sunia. So he and Nobi Daichi walked around Fat Tiger and Sunia and headed home. Fat Tiger and Sunia saw Nobi Daichi and Nobita also left. They picked up the fishing rods on the ground and went home together. Pushing open the door, Nobita saw Doraemon sitting on the ground reading a book and burst into tears. At the same time, he shouted, "Doraemon, Doraemon. What's wrong? What's wrong? What happened?" Doraemon turned his head, looking at Nobita, who walked in. His eyes were full of confusion and a face full of confusion. After seeing Doraemon, Nobita immediately thought of the experience of being teased by Fat Tiger and Sunia on the street just now. He didn't even have time to put down his backpack and rushed to Doraemon's side. He held Doraemon's big head with both hands and shook it hard. Doraemon, who was already confused, became even more confused, and the book in his hand fell to the ground. At the same time, Nobita cried and shouted at Doraemon, "Take it out. Take it out. A prop that allows people to continue dreaming." Nobi Daichi entered the door just one step later than Nobita, so he saw this scene. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. Although he seemed to remember that there was such a scene in the original book, but the feeling of seeing it with your own eyes and just watching it on the screen is completely different. Seeing this scene with his own eyes, he can better understand Nobita's shameless using Doraemon's kindness to satisfy his own desires. Although there seems to be nothing wrong with this. After all, if it were a normal person, it would probably do the same as Nobita, or even worse. Of course. The main problem is that Nobita relies too much on Doraemon's props. Nobi Daichi couldn't help but sigh. It seems that Doraemon has a long way to go to make Nobita kind. After putting down his school bag, Nobi Daichi also sat in front of Doraemon and Nobita. "Stop. Stop. Stop." Doraemon, whose eyes were almost turned into circles by Nobita's shaking, said repeatedly. Hearing Doraemon's words and looking at Doraemon's current state, Nobita embarrassedly let go of the hand that was hugging Doraemon's big head. "Why do you use this prop?" Doraemon asked Nobita after he woke up a little from the dizziness. Nobita then told Doraemon about his dream and what happened on the street just now. At the same time, he also told Doraemon about his request. "What? At least let people see your handsomeness in the dream?" Hearing Nobita's words and request, Doraemon exclaimed directly. Listening to Nobita's request, Nobi Daichi didn't have any other emotions. Dreams are originally a way to vent desires. That's right. Nobita nodded hurriedly and looked at Doraemon. "I hope Doraemon can bring out props that will let me dream what I want." But Doraemon obviously won't agree to Nobita's boring request. So the scene imagined by Nobita and Daichi Nobi appeared. "It's so boring." Doraemon crossed his arms in front of his chest. He turned his head and didn't even look at Nobita, as if he was quite disappointed with Nobita. From Doraemon's words, it can also be seen that Doraemon does not support Nobita's approach. After all, Doraemon thinks the same as Nobi Daichi. No matter how powerful you are in a dream, it's still a dream. People will wake up from dreams after all. Sometimes the huge gap between dreams and reality can completely make a person fall into an irretrievable place. Not to mention the dream world that is so real that it can't be more real. The next second, even if you escape to a dream to seek comfort, you will become more miserable when you wake up. Doraemon explained to Nobita helplessly. He had to explain it. Helping Nobita grow up was his mission here. Then Doraemon turned around and put his hands on his head, shaking his head. What a shame. Nobita, who was kneeling on the tatami, also had a drop of cold sweat on his head. He put his hands on his chest, his face full of complicated expressions. But Nobita still didn't want to give up and wanted to struggle. If you have time to think about these boring questions, why not do your homework? Doraemon explained to Nobita while walking out of the bedroom expressionlessly. Nobita crawled behind Doraemon, trying to save his idea. But Nobita just crawled to the door. Bang! Nobita hit the door. It turned out that Doraemon had closed the door. From outside the door, Doraemon's voice of teaching Nobita could be heard. How can you not work harder in the real world? Then outside the door was completely silent. In the room, Nobita slid down the door like a dead fish. After knowing that his hope was shattered, Nobita sat back in front of Nobi Daichi with a bitter face. Looking at Nobi Daichi sitting in front of him, Nobita's eyes suddenly lit up. He said to Nobita Daichi with hope, "Daichi, can you help me persuade Doraemon? How about that?" Nobita came to Nobita Daichi and wanted to do what he did to Doraemon before. Thinking of the scene where Nobita hugged Doraemon and shook Doraemon's big head just now, Nobita Daichi couldn't help but shudder and hurriedly retreated behind him. At the same time, he kept saying, "Brother, you don't come over. I agree, isn't it okay?" Nobita Daichi could only surrender to Nobita's certain power in the end. Of course, surrendering to Nobita's certain power does not exist. The reason why he agreed to Nobita's request was mainly because Nobita Daichi himself was curious about the dream machine that could make people have fixed dreams. And Nobita Daichi also knew that, even if he didn't agree to Nobita, the development of the plot would still not change. Doraemon will still take out the dream machine for Nobita. It's just a matter of sooner or later. Outside the door, after Doraemon said his last words of persuasion to Nobita, he walked downstairs. But halfway up the stairs, Doraemon walked back. Looking at the door, Doraemon seemed to see Nobita with a disappointed look on his face, with a complicated expression on his face. Did I say too much? Thinking so, Doraemon walked back to the door and pressed his left hand on the door, apparently trying to open it. "Nobita, I'm talking to you." Click. The door was pushed open by Doraemon in an instant. "Nobita? Nobita?" After pushing the door open, Doraemon did not see Nobita with a disappointed look on his face. Instead, he looked at Nobita, who was sitting in front of Nobi Daichi with a happy face. Doraemon thought of his previous amorous scenes. He thought Nobita would be very disappointed and wanted to comfort him. As a result, "So I was worried for nothing, Doraemon." After seeing Doraemon coming in, Nobita first called out Doraemon in surprise. Then he turned around and winked at Nobi Daichi. Chapter 252 Preaching. Nobi Daichi naturally noticed the look Nobita gave him. So Nobi Daichi gave Nobita a positive nod. Seeing Nobi Daichi nod, Nobita, who was originally unsure, finally felt relieved. So Nobita mustered up the courage to speak to Doraemon again. "Doraemon, my previous proposal, request, will you agree to it?" Looking at Nobita with a serious face, Doraemon hesitated a little. "Doraemon, why don't you agree to it, brother? Anyway, there is no class this afternoon, and you can take out the props. Let me try it first, and if there is no problem, let me continue to use it." At this time, Nobi Daichi spoke for Nobita. In fact, he was speaking for himself. After all, Nobi Daichi was also very curious about the dream machine that could make people have a specified dream, although it was nominally taken out for Nobita's request. But once Doraemon took out the dream machine, would Nobita refuse Nobi Daichi to play with him? After all, Nobi Daichi helped him a lot. After hearing Nobi Daichi's series of explanations, Doraemon finally stopped insisting and said with a serious face, "Okay then. But we have a deal. If Nobita encounters any accident with the dream machine, he will never be allowed to use it again." Yeah. Nobita naturally had an expression of agreement on his face. As for Nobita's real thoughts, no one knew. Seeing Doraemon finally agree to Nobita's request after a series of twists and turns, Nobita Daichi was also relieved. It seems that Doraemon is still as considerate as always. However, it is precisely because of Doraemon's consideration that many troubles will be reduced. "Then Doraemon, why don't you take out the props that can make you dream?" After hearing that Doraemon agreed to his request, Nobita immediately said impatiently, "No." Unexpectedly, Doraemon rejected it without hesitation. Nobita was shocked, and Nobita Daichi was stunned. Nobita and Nobita Daichi looked at each other, wondering what happened to Doraemon. Did Doraemon suddenly regret it? Thinking of this, Nobita suddenly became anxious. "You can't play like this." Then Nobita hurriedly wanted to say something, but Doraemon didn't give Nobita the chance. "Not now, because it's almost time for dinner. It won't be good if mom sees it." After saying no and giving Nobita despair, Doraemon said slowly. Hearing Doraemon's anxious sentence, To be honest, Nobita really wanted to teach Doraemon a lesson. Of course, this can only be thought about in his mind. Then it's settled. After seeing that things were finally settled, Nobita said happily, "Lunch, on the dining table." Because Nobita Shinsuke was not at the table today, there were only 4 people on the large dining table. Nobi Daichi, Nobita, Doraemon and Nobita Mako. Because Doraemon agreed to Nobita's request, when Nobita was eating at the table today, the expression on his face was different from usual. Because he wanted to play the dream machine as soon as possible, Nobita ate the rice with big mouthfuls. But Nobita also knew that, even if he finished the meal alone, he couldn't play the dream machine if Nobita Daichi and Doraemon didn't finish their meals. So Nobita was in a dilemma for a while. He should finish eating quickly, because it's not good to sit here after eating. He should eat slowly, but he couldn't suppress his excitement. Looking at Nobita who didn't eat well, Nobita Tamako was angry. So Nobita Tamako started her own education model. Countless wise sayings of parents gushed out of Nobita Tamako's mouth. After Nobita Tamako opened her mouth, it seemed that one character after another floated out of Nobita Tamako's mouth. Then these characters all floated to Nobita's side and circled around him. But the effect of these characters didn't seem to be very good, and none of them went into Nobita's ears. Even if they went into Nobita's left ear, they would flow out of Nobita's right ear in a few seconds. In short, it goes in the left ear and out the right ear. So the scene was formed. Nobi Daichi and Doraemon lowered their heads and ate the rice in their bowls as if nothing had happened. Nobita Mako gave Nobita earnest advice. She said something like study hard, learn more from Daichi, look at the children of a certain neighbor, etc. But Nobita was like a wooden man, with no expression on his face. He just raised the bowl and quickly ate the rice in the bowl. But Nobita Tamako didn't know. What she said was indeed good for Nobita, as long as Nobita did what she said. But she didn't know. Nobita, or children at this stage, hate parents saying this the most. For example, comparing someone's child to your own child, saying that you are teaching your own child. In fact, you are praising other people's children without any scruples. Which child can be happy to hear such words? Parents say such words. Although the main purpose is to motivate their own children, it is often counterproductive. Children taught by such words. There are very few who are truly talented, and even those who are successful must have some flaws in their hearts. The last part of this group of people are truly talented. Few who I don't know how long it has been. Nobita Mako is a little tired of talking. After taking a few deep breaths, she took a cup of tea on the table and drank it all in one gulp. Nobita, do you understand what mom said? Nobita Tamako earnestly persuaded Nobita. I understand, mom. You are right. You are right. Nobita finished the last bit of rice in the bowl. After putting the bowl and chopsticks on the table, he said to Nobita Tamako with a smile on his face. Hearing Nobita's words and seeing the smile on Nobita's face, Nobi Daichi and Doraemon both looked up at Nobita. Then they looked at each other at the same time, and doubts arose in their hearts. Is Nobita's head damaged by the blow? Then under the gaze of Nobi Tamaki, Nobi Daichi and Doraemon, Nobita jumped down from his seat, stood on the other side of Nobita Tamaki, and said to her, Mom, I will pay attention to what you said in the future. Nobi Daichi, Doraemon. Doraemon and Nobi Daichi have heard Nobita's answer like this countless times. As for whether it has been realized, wouldn't it be clear if you listen to Nobi Tamaki's preaching? I'm full, so I'll go back to the bedroom first. After Nobita finished speaking, he walked towards the door. But before he walked out of the door completely, Nobita suddenly stopped. Chapter 253 How to Choose. Then he looked at Nobi Daichi and Doraemon meaningfully. Nobita didn't need to signal again. Nobi Daichi and Doraemon understood that Nobita wanted them to finish their meal quickly. After giving Nobi Daichi and Doraemon a look, Nobita walked out of the restaurant without looking back. But when he was going up the stairs, Nobita suddenly stopped. Daichi and Doraemon should understand what I mean, right? Nobita thought anxiously. Now he didn't want to wait anymore. Every minute and every second was a torment for him now. But Nobita, he couldn't go back and give them another look just because he suspected that Nobi Daichi and Doraemon didn't understand his eye signal. He didn't want to listen to his mother Nobita Mako's nagging again. That would be 10,000 times more uncomfortable than attending class. Nobita had no choice but to go back to his room and wait anxiously. After Nobita left, Nobi Daichi and Doraemon also quickened their eating pace. Within a minute, Nobi Daichi and Doraemon finished their meals one after another. Nobita in the room was waiting anxiously. However, Nobi Daichi and Doraemon did not disappoint Nobita. He just waited in the room for decades. Every second seemed like a year. Nobi Daichi and Doraemon had already finished their meals and came back. "You are finally back." Nobita looked unsatisfied. "Hurry up and take out the props that can make me dream." Nobita Daichi and Doraemon ignored Nobita's complaints. Hearing Nobita's last words, Doraemon nodded and said, "I know, I'll take it out right away." Then Doraemon began to dig in his 4-dimensional pocket. After a few seconds, a prop was taken out by Doraemon from the 4-dimensional pocket. Any dreaming machine combination. Any dreaming machine combination consists of 2 parts. A bookcase a little over 1 meter high, an instrument with a semicircular upper body that is about the same height as Doraemon. The bookcase has 4 layers in total, and each layer is filled with various tapes. These tapes are small stories and dreams. As long as a tape is inserted into the dream machine, the dreamer will enter the dream world constructed by this tape. Of course, this is the simplest way to put it. In fact, it is not that simple, and there are some other small steps. I won't explain it here for now. In the middle of the instrument is a silver screen, through which you can see the dreamer's situation in the dream. On both sides of the silver screen are 2 red patterns, distributed symmetrically. At a point below the silver screen are 3 yellow oval buttons. Diagonally to the right and below the 3 yellow buttons are 7 purple rectangular buttons. On the left side of the instrument is a semicircular solid iron column, and an antenna is inserted on the semicircular surface of the iron column. This antenna is the medium for the dreamer to communicate with the dream machine. Through special and specific radio waves, the dreamer and the dream machine can reach a certain tacit understanding. To the right of the semicircular instrument is a trapezoidal structure that is more than 10 centimeters high. After taking out the any dream machine combination, Doraemon placed the any dream machine combination not far from the window. Looking at the any dream machine combination, Nobita's eyes sparkled. It must be shining. After all, this is a prop that can make you the person you want to be. Great. But how do you use it? After looking at the dream machine for a few times, Nobita turned to Doraemon and asked, "Just put the tapes in the bookcase into the dream machine, and you can have all kinds of dreams." Doraemon patiently explained to Nobita, and also explained to Nobi Daichi. Wow, it's so magical. After listening to Doraemon's explanation, Nobita's curiosity became even stronger. He thought he could only have one dream. Unexpectedly, he could have many dreams, and he could have any kind of dream with any tape. "Come on, choose one from here," Doraemon said to Nobita. In fact, Doraemon also said this to Nobita Daichi. Nobita Daichi heard what Doraemon said, and followed Nobita to the front of the bookcase with curiosity in his eyes. Every one of them looks so interesting, it's really hard. Nobita looked at the various tapes on the bookcase, and was in a difficult choice for a while. Suddenly, Nobita stopped looking at the bookcase. Instead, he clenched his hands and looked at the ceiling, lost in his own thoughts. It would be great if there was a superhero who looked strong and could fly through the sky. How about this? Hearing Nobita's request, Doraemon pulled out a tape from the bookcase. Boomkachan Superman. Looking at the tape that Doraemon pulled out from the bookcase, Nobita Daichi couldn't help but twitch his mouth. The tape that Doraemon pulled out from the bookcase is called Boomkachan Superman. The cover of this tape is mainly pink, and there is a line of Japanese text at the top of the cover. In the middle of the cover is a big face that looks like a round cake. Superman with white gloves, a blue jumpsuit, and a red cape on his back. But from Nobita Daichi's point of view, he couldn't tell how this was related to Boomkachan. It was obviously just a big cookie. Seeing the Boomkachan Superman tape that Doraemon took out from the bookcase, Nobita couldn't help but twitch his mouth a few times. Then Nobita pressed his chin with his right index finger and said to Doraemon helplessly, "Doraemon, shouldn't this be suitable for children younger than me?" Hearing Nobita's words, Doraemon, who was originally smiling, was stunned with the Boomkachan Superman tape, turned his head, and looked at Nobita and said, "Is that so?" I think it's just right for you to play with. Looking at the obstinate Doraemon, Nobita Daichi suddenly felt that Doraemon might be hopeless, in his opinion, plus some speculations. Nobita Daichi estimated that Doraemon should take out the type he likes. When Doraemon was staring at the Boomkachin Superman tape in his hand, Nobita suddenly walked to the bookcase with a smile on his face and took out a tape. I think this one is pretty good. Which one? Doraemon put down the Boomkachin Superman tape in his hand and looked at Nobita and asked, Jurassic Planet. Nobita Daichi looked along Nobita's arm. He also saw the tape called Jurassic Planet in Nobita's hand. The name of the Jurassic Planet tape is also on the top of the tape cover. In the middle and lower part of the cover is the head and neck of mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex. The image of the Tyrannosaurus Rex is surrounded by a circle. From the Tyrannosaurus Rex drawn on the tape, everyone can know that this is the Jurassic era. On the left and right sides of the circle that trapped the Tyrannosaurus Rex, there are some tall trees surrounded by squares. It seems to be the living environment of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Chapter 254 Preview. Doraemon also saw the Jurassic Planet tape in Nobita's hand. After reaching out and taking the Jurassic Planet tape from Nobita's hand, Doraemon smiled and said to Nobita and Nobita, there is a dream preview attached. Use the monitor to take a look. Yeah. Nobita nodded like a chicken pecking at rice, and Nobita also nodded in agreement. Then Doraemon walked to the front of the dream machine and sat down. Nobita and Nobita also sat on the left and right sides behind Doraemon. Then under the gaze of Nobita and Nobita, Doraemon stuffed the tape into the dream machine through the iron pillar-like thing on the left side of the dream machine. The screen of the dream machine flashed for a moment, and then the picture appeared. There were countless clouds in the sky, some black clouds, some white clouds, but most of them were dark clouds, and countless clouds spread across the entire sky. In the northeast in the distance was a tall mountain, and in the near distance were dense and tall trees. This is the background pattern of the entire picture. There are some yellow and red fonts on the screen. These fonts are some related prefaces about the stories in the tape of Jurassic Planet. At the same time, a voice introduction came from the screen. Jurassic Planet is presented to you by the genius director Spielberg. Then the picture on the screen began to change after the voice explanation fell. The sky covered with dark clouds was enlarged all of a sudden, so that the entire screen was occupied by dense dark clouds. The camera moved down. A huge head appeared in the middle of the screen. It was the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the overlord of the Jurassic era. When it arrived here, a line of fonts mixed with voices also appeared under the Tyrannosaurus Rex on the screen. Jurassic Planet. And Nobita, who was sitting in front of the dream machine and looking at the face on the screen, couldn't help but say excitedly, "It's really exciting." Nobi Daichi thought it was still pretty good at the moment, although he had experienced the plot of Nobita's Dinosaur before. But you have to know that using a dream machine for adventure, it is a completely different experience from riding a time machine to the real Jurassic era. Moreover, when using a dream machine for exploration, the dreamer can clearly know that he is dreaming. The more he thought about it, the more interested Nobi Daichi was. Just thinking about it, Nobi Daichi suddenly thought of something. When using a dream machine, he is awake in his dream, while his body is resting in the outside world. So it can be said that using a dream machine means that he is awake 24 hours a day. Isn't the available time in a day double that of others? Double learning, double happiness? Nobi Daichi suddenly glanced at Nobita. When Nobi Daichi looked at Nobita, Nobita felt cold all over and shivered. Hiss, it's only September. Why is it so cold? Nobita muttered a few words. Then he stopped entangled in this matter, but looked up at the screen on the dream machine again. At this time, the picture on the screen of the dream machine has completely changed from the previous picture. The picture was changed to a cockpit of an interstellar spaceship. Through the transparent barrier in front of the cockpit, you can see the brilliant stars in the starry sky. Countless stars and planets that are much larger than interstellar spaceships. Through the transparent barrier in front of the cockpit, they are all shaped like stars one by one, like countless grains of sand emitting light. Nobita and Doraemon are attracted by this brilliant starry sky. But at this moment, a huge meteorite suddenly appeared in front of the cockpit, and it occupied the entire screen in almost the blink of an eye. Nobita and Doraemon, who were immersed in the brilliant starry sky, were directly separated from the world on the screen with a start. The picture changed. From the perspective of God, it turned out that the spaceship collided with a huge meteorite. Unknowingly, this spaceship traveling in the starry sky actually drove into a circle of meteorites. Then Nobita, Nobi Daichi and Doraemon, who were watching this scene, were all stunned. Another voice of narration came from the screen. The boy's spaceship hit an asteroid, the photon engine stopped working, and the body lost control. When the voice came, the picture on the screen changed again, and changed to the interior of the cockpit. After the spaceship collided with the meteorite, the spaceship seemed to have suffered some unknown damage. I saw two people in red spacesuits sitting in the driving position constantly operating the joystick in front of them. But the spaceship was no longer controlled by them. Hey, is everything okay? Just as the two pilots sitting in the driving position were adjusting the dynamics of the spaceship, a man who was also wearing a red spacesuit, but fatter than the two pilots in the driving position, walked in from outside the cockpit and asked the two pilots at the same time. At this critical scene, Nobita suddenly spoke to Doraemon. Doraemon, stop here. Although Doraemon didn't know why Nobita stopped here, he still paused the picture on the screen. So now the picture in the cockpit. The only difference from before is that there is an additional pilot who just ran into the cockpit. After pausing the image on the screen, Doraemon turned to Nobita and asked him in confusion. Nobita, why do you want me to stop here? Nobita pointed at the pilot on the screen and asked Doraemon in confusion. Doraemon, why are the heads of these three people all a big ball of light and their faces can't be seen clearly? Well, this is to allow customers to choose their own roles. For example, you are this person, Shizuka is this person. In simple terms, it's like this. Doraemon pointed at the three people on the screen and explained patiently. Oh, so that's it. Then without waiting for Nobita to continue asking, Doraemon explained again. Just press these three yellow buttons, and at the same time, think in your mind what you want this person to become. The person on the screen will become what you think in your mind. Is that so? Nobita suddenly realized. Then he stretched out his hand with a look of joy and pressed the three yellow buttons one by one. Then the two pilots in the cockpit turned into Nobita and Nobi Daichi one by one. Looking at this scene, Nobi Daichi secretly said in his heart, after all, he is still my brother. He thought of me first. Nobi Daichi didn't know. The reason why Nobita made him the second male lead was not because he was Nobita's biological brother, but for another reason. But no matter what the reason was, it was actually redundant. There were three people on the screen. Nobita and Nobita Daichi accounted for two, and the third person was not unexpected by Nobita Daichi. Shizuka. Nobita Daichi knew this would be the result without even guessing. Chapter 255. Surprise. After all, from the dream that Nobita had yesterday, Nobi Daichi could also see that Shizuka, Fat Tiger and Sunia must be in Nobita's dream. The role of Fat Tiger and Sunia, mainly after Nobita did something that shocked or surprised the two. Fat Tiger and Sunia cast an unbelievable look at Nobita. They felt admiration and worship for Nobita, which greatly satisfied Nobita's vanity. Although this is impossible, even in a dream, Nobi Daichi secretly guessed in his heart. As for Shizuka, she is even more indispensable. Shizuka, Fat Tiger and Sunia, if you have to make them important, Fat Tiger and Sunia can be gone, but Shizuka must be there. As for Nobita and Shizuka, who is more important to Nobita? Who knows? But these are all Nobita's fantasies about himself in his dreams. For Nobita Daichi, these do not affect the family relationship between him and Nobita. After Nobita pressed the yellow button at the bottom of the screen, there was no face in the spaceship. The three people in the big light ball suddenly had faces. They were Nobita, Nobi Daichi, and Shizuka, who had just run into the cockpit. Wow, this function is great. Nobita said excitedly as he watched the characters on the screen change after he pressed the yellow button. The narration on the screen appeared again. The spaceship has made an emergency landing on an unknown planet. As the narrator said this, Nobita, Nobi Daichi, and Shizuka sitting in the spaceship had already arrived above a colorful planet. This colorful planet was emitting a faint halo. The spaceship was not small for Nobita, Nobi Daichi, and Shizuka. When facing the huge unknown planet, it was still pitifully small, like a black spot on a glass bowl that could not be seen without careful observation. The narrator was still talking, introducing the story outline of the tape of Jurassic Planet. What awaits them there is the terrifying world of dinosaurs. The picture changed. At this time, the picture had already arrived inside this unknown planet. There are numerous dinosaurs on the ground. Hundreds of meters above the sky is a spaceship with a parachute. At this time, the spaceship is slowly descending to the ground full of dinosaurs below. It turned out that the spaceship had a malfunction due to hitting a meteorite and was forced to descend to this unknown planet. The scene changed again. Don't cry. The three of us must work together to survive here. Nobita clenched his right fist and cheered up Nobi Daichi and Shizuka, who were sitting on the ground and crying. Behind them was a spaceship that was emitting white smoke and was damaged in many places. Further behind was an endless and dense primeval forest. Watching this scene, Nobi Daichi, who was sitting in front of the screen, felt that his heart had been hit by 10,000 critical points. Although he knew that this was what happened on the screen, everything was fake, and he would never do such a thing in reality. But seeing this scene, Nobi Daichi still felt so angry. The explanation and pictures on the screen did not stop because of Nobita's dissatisfaction. The pictures and explanations on the screen continued. Crisis comes one after another. Adventures come one after another without leaving a chance to breathe. Under the leadership of Nobita, Nobita and the other two came to a mountain and were attacked by a pterosaur several meters long. Nobita drove the pterosaur away with a smoking torch. Nobita and Shizuka hid behind Nobita, leaning against the mountain wall, crying and trembling. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. Nobita said several words to comfort himself in his heart. At the same time, he tried his best to take a deep breath. Try to suppress the idea of punching this damn dream machine. Nobita has already regretted it a little. Either don't watch this dream trailer, or let him choose the character. Just before watching the dream trailer, Nobi Daichi had never thought that this dream preview would be so irritating. He actually hid behind Nobita, and Nobita showed his heroic figure. Well, this is not impossible. He can barely accept it. But he was crying in the dream preview. His body was still trembling. This is really too much. Nobi Daichi's face kept changing back and forth, and finally he regained his composure. Nobita and Doraemon were concentrating on watching the screen on the dream machine, so they didn't notice the change in Nobi Daichi's expression. The next second, the picture changed to Nobita, Daichi and Shizuka sitting on a little dinosaur. Behind the three of them followed a Jurassic overlord, Tyrannosaurus Rex. It turned out that at this time, Nobita Daichi and the other two were being chased by a tall and mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex. The little dinosaur carrying them was desperately running around. In addition, there are magnificent and beautiful pictures. What will the future of the young people be like? You are the protagonist. Come and challenge the ups and downs of the plot. When the narrator said this, the picture changed to Nobita sitting on a ceratopsian with a determined look on his face, holding a wooden spear in his right hand. The ceratopsian carried Nobita and kept moving forward. And this was the last picture. At this time, the dream preview given by the Jurassic Planet tape was finally played. The silver screen on the dream machine flickered for a moment, and then it was black. It doesn't look bad. After seeing the story in the Jurassic Planet tape, Doraemon turned around and smiled at Nobita. Nobita also smiled. Well, it's great. But Doraemon noticed that Nobita Daichi didn't smile and looked a little bad. Daichi, do you think this dream world is not good? Doraemon asked Nobita Daichi with some doubts. Nobita looked at Nobita Daichi nervously when he heard Doraemon's words. Nobita hoped very much that the dream world he had chosen would be recognized and appreciated by others. Even if they didn't enter this dream world to explore, it didn't matter. He wanted to get it. The most important thing was the recognition of others. No, it's actually pretty good. Nobita laughed dryly. He knew that Doraemon had seen through his expression, but he didn't hide it. Nobita was telling the truth. The dream world shown in the tape of Jurassic Planet was really pretty good. It would be even better if those unfriendly scenes to him were removed. But compared to these, the main reason why Nobita felt that this dream world was pretty good was the system. The system actually issued a task. Chapter 256 Hidden Benefits. You have to know the nature of issuing tasks according to the system. Which time was it not issued? After he traveled to other worlds and other planes. And this time, the system actually issued a task to him in the main world. This is simply contrary to the original intention of the system to suppress his strength. No matter how stupid Nobi Daichi is, after experiencing so many things, he also noticed that something was wrong. It's just that, although he wanted to resist, his strength didn't allow it. From the point of view that the system gave him the Emperor Armor summoning belt before, the power of the system is unimaginable to him. Not to mention that this seems to be just a basic function of the system, but fortunately, this system has no intention of harming him at present, and there is no special shabby coin to erase the punishment. As for the future, let's talk about it when that time comes. What can he do now? Task: change the original operating trajectory of the dream world of Jurassic Planet. Reward: give origin points according to the degree of changing the operating trajectory of the world. Note, this task has hidden benefits. Whether it can be opened depends on whether the host can trigger it. Looking at the transparent panel of the system task that only he can see, Nobi Daichi was silent. System: what is the origin point? The origin exists in every world and every interface, and it controls the operation of everything. And the origin point is to extract some rewards from the origin, to give to the host. What is the function? Nobi Daichi did not waste any words and asked directly. It can improve the host's strength, without side effects, and the main world can also improve strength. Hearing this, Nobi Daichi was excited. He had always felt sorry that he could not practice in the main world. Now, he can finally improve his strength in this world. Although he did not know how many origin points the system would give him, how much strength he could improve. But being able to improve strength is enough. The system continued. The origin point can also improve the strength of the host's Emperor Armor. Hearing this, Nobi Daichi chuckled. He would never do that. After all, if his own strength is improved, the strength of the Emperor Armor will also be improved. Wouldn't it be happy to double it? Why only improve one Emperor Armor? But Nobi Daichi also knew that the system could not be unaware of this. So since the system said so, there must be a reason. But the system did not explain. Nobi Daichi did not ask. He knew that even if he asked, the system would probably not tell him. These are the two functions of the origin point that the system can tell the host. There are other functions. Please explore them yourself. The system's explanation ended here. As for this hidden benefit, what could it be? Nobi Daichi's eyes kept flickering. In the end, it fell on the hidden benefits mentioned in the notes on the task panel. Generally speaking, for hidden benefits like this, the things given are more than the rewards on the surface. But this hidden benefit is actually more precious than the origin point. This is a bit incredible. Of course, it is also possible that he guessed wrong. This hidden benefit is actually a bunch of rubbish. After all, this system is not a master who likes to play cards according to common sense. Looking at the transparent system task panel in front of him, various thoughts kept surging in Nobi Daichi's mind. In the outside world, Nobita and Doraemon watched Nobi Daichi staring at one place in a daze, not knowing what he was thinking. Hey, Daichi, are you okay? Doraemon looked at Nobita Daichi like this, and finally couldn't help but worry. If you don't like this, let's change it, Nobita said cautiously. Nobita was actually not very satisfied with the dream world of Jurassic Planet. Because there were only 3 people in this dream world, there would be no Fat Tiger and Sunia. This resulted in Fat Tiger and Sunia not being able to appreciate their heroic figures. This was quite disappointing to Nobita. But apart from these, the dream world of Jurassic Planet still made him feel very satisfied. Just looking at the expression on Daichi's face, it seemed that Daichi didn't like this dream world very much. At some point, Nobita couldn't ignore Nobita Daichi's preferences. Of course, it all depends on Nobita's mood. And hearing Doraemon, especially what Nobita said, Nobita Daichi also suddenly woke up from his thoughts. Then he said repeatedly, I'm fine. No need to change it. Just choose this one. Oh. Doraemon and Nobita both breathed a sigh of relief. Doraemon was relieved, because Nobita was not ill. Nobita was relieved because he didn't have to change to another dream world. If this dream world does not meet their requirements, they will have to choose another dream world and then watch the trailer of the dream world. Of course, they can also choose not to watch the trailer of the dream world, but there is a disadvantage. That is, they don't know if this dream world is what they want. If it is, it's good. If not, it will waste their time. Of course, this is still a small matter. The key is to have a dream that you don't like. Isn't this purely alienating? It will also make people feel very unhappy and make them unhappy all day. Since everyone has no problem, let's have this dream, Nobita said excitedly to Nobita and Doraemon. Yeah. Nobita and Doraemon both nodded in agreement. After seeing that both Nobi Daichi and Doraemon were fine, Nobita stood up from the tatami and walked towards the closet, trying to get his own quilt out of it. Seeing this, Nobita followed closely behind Nobita and went to the closet to get his own quilt out. Doraemon was still sitting in front of the dream machine, watching Nobita and Nobita carrying the quilt. Soon, Nobita and Nobita had spread the quilt they had moved out of the closet on the tatami. Nobita and Nobita took off their coats one by one and got into bed. Of course, they only put their lower bodies into bed, and their upper bodies were still outside. Nobita and Nobita would not believe it. They could have that dream without doing anything. So Nobita and Nobita looked at Doraemon, preparing for what was to come next. Nobita naturally knew how to use the dream machine, but he couldn't show it. Under the gaze of Nobita and Nobi Daichi, Doraemon took out another iron box from his 4-dimensional pocket. Then Doraemon took out 2 red dots from the iron box. This is an antenna. Just stick this antenna on your forehead. You will be able to receive the dream waves from the dream machine. Then create the dream world and the Jurassic planet tape you selected. Doraemon held the iron box in his left hand and the 2 red dots in his right hand, and explained to Nobita and Nobi Daichi. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 begins. Oh, so that's how it is. Nobita suddenly realized. Then Nobita hurriedly said to Doraemon. Quick, Doraemon, give me the antenna. Looking at the impatient Nobita, Doraemon did not keep him in suspense. He handed one of the 2 antennas in his right hand to Nobita. Then Nobita quickly stuck the antenna on his forehead. The antenna only stayed on Nobita's forehead for a moment. It disappeared and could not be seen. Then Nobita did not hesitate and immediately got into the bed. At the same time, Nobita also took the antenna that could receive dream waves from Doraemon's hand and stuck it on his forehead. Then Nobita also got into the bed with only his head exposed. He turned his head to the side. Nobita glanced at Nobita. Then Nobita was shocked. Nobita actually fell asleep in less than half a minute. The snot bubbles came out and went up and down with Nobita's breathing. It seems that Nobita's talent for sleeping is indeed unmatched. Perhaps someone would say, I can also fall asleep in less than half a minute. But that is a scene that will only appear when you are extremely sleepy, and Nobita was not sleepy at all before. On the contrary, he was very energetic. But think about it, Nobita can fall asleep while standing. Nobi Daichi thinks this is also a very normal thing. Don't think too much. Nobi Daichi turned his head back from looking at Nobita, and after looking at the ceiling, Nobi Daichi closed his eyes. Then Nobi Daichi controlled his mind to relax, and soon Nobi Daichi also fell asleep. Seeing Nobita fall asleep quickly, Doraemon thought it was very normal. But Nobi Daichi actually fell asleep in less than a minute. This is a bit abnormal. But Doraemon didn't delve into this issue any further. In his opinion, it may be that Nobi Daichi really wants to enter this dream world to play. So he stimulated his potential. So he fell asleep so quickly. In order for the dreamer to receive the dream waves emitted by the dream machine and dream the dream he prepared in advance, this must be done after the dreamer falls asleep. After confirming that Nobita and Nobita Daichi were both asleep, Doraemon turned around and looked at the dream machine behind him. Reaching forward with his right hand, Doraemon pressed a button on the dream machine. The black screen on the dream machine flickered, and a picture appeared. It was the initial scene in the dream trailer of Jurassic Century. The cockpit was as bright as day. There were already 3 people in the cockpit at this time. Nobita, Nobita Daichi and Shizuka. After Nobita Daichi fell asleep, he felt a black screen in front of his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, he found that he had come to a place completely different from the bedroom. It was the cockpit of the spaceship. At this time, he was sitting in a seat in the cockpit. Nobita Daichi glanced at the seat next to him. Nobita also came to the dream world of Jurassic Planet like him. At this moment, Nobita Daichi's pupils shrank suddenly. Not far from the spaceship, he had already seen a huge meteorite. This was because his eyesight was much stronger than that of ordinary people, so he was able to discover the meteorite in advance, if no measures were taken. In a few minutes, the spaceship he and Nobita were in would collide with the meteorite in front. The result of the collision. It should be the same as the trailer. They will be fine. The spaceship will eventually have an unknown malfunction due to the collision with the meteorite and land on an unknown planet. But is this what Nobita Daichi wants? Of course not. He clearly remembers the task reward introduction released by the system. The origin points will be given depending on the extent to which he changes the trajectory of this dream world. If he prevents the spaceship that should have collided with the meteorite from crashing and malfunctioning, does it count as changing the trajectory of this dream world? In Nobita Daichi's opinion, it definitely counts, and the change is not small. After all, as long as the spacecraft does not malfunction due to the collision with the meteorite, then they will have a lot of room for operation. This will definitely change the trajectory of the operation of this dream world. Thinking of this, Nobi Daichi looked at the joystick in front of him. It is strange to say that this spacecraft that can travel in the universe is extremely simple to operate. Just relying on the joystick in front of Nobi Daichi, it can complete the changes in various directions such as forward, backward, ascending, and descending. As for how he knew, isn't it clearly written in Japanese on the joystick? For Nobi Daichi at this time, it is simply too convenient. Maybe the great way is simple. Nobi Daichi thought secretly. Things like tools are developed for the purpose of facilitating people's lives. If the development does more harm than good, it is better not to study it. The spacecraft they are riding now is probably like this. Although it is a spacecraft with super high science and technology, the operation is very simple. Nobi Daichi thought about this while operating the joystick in front of him. Nobita has reacted by now and recalled the previous plot. It won't be long. Maybe in the next second, or maybe in the next moment, the spaceship they are riding will collide with a huge meteorite. Thus, the exploration journey to an unknown planet will begin. Thinking of this, Nobita was very scared. After all, he had watched the trailer of the dream world before, as if he was watching a movie, and found it very exciting. But you know, they are now immersed in this extremely real dream world. Through the transparent barrier in the cockpit, Nobita can clearly see the vast and deep universe outside. If it is not the same as the original plot, what if they encounter unexpected consequences when colliding with the meteorite? What will happen? Just think about drifting aimlessly in this dark and silent starry sky. Anyone would be terrified. Therefore, Nobita stood up from his seat, walked to Nobi Daichi's side, and asked with a trembling voice, "Daichi, what should we do next? Can we prevent this spaceship from colliding with the meteorite?" Nobita said hopefully. In fact, Nobita knew that he was a little wishful thinking. After all, it was impossible to think about such a thing, but Nobita always had to ask, even if the result was not what he wanted. "Okay. It's okay, I've already prepared." What? Nobita was about to say instinctively that he had already prepared for the spaceship to collide with the meteorite. Who would have thought that Nobi Daichi would actually say yes? After Nobita was surprised, a look of doubt appeared in his eyes. Nobita really couldn't figure it out. What method did Nobi Daichi have to prevent the spaceship from colliding with the meteorite? Chapter 258 Title: Nobi Daichi didn't answer Nobita's words, but operated the joystick in front of him. The obvious meaning was, "Watch me operate." Nobita saw that Nobi Daichi didn't say anything, but operated the joystick in front of him. In his heart, he suppressed the intention of continuing to ask, and his strong curiosity rose. Nobi Daichi, who was sitting in the operating chair in front of Nobita, pressed his hands on the joystick. He performed a series of operations that even Nobita felt were very simple. "Nobita, Just like that. Just like that. Just like that. They can prevent the spaceship they are riding from colliding with the meteorite in front. This is impossible, no matter how you look at it. Just watching Nobi Daichi's operation, Nobita suddenly discovered something. At this time, he noticed the rows and rows of characters engraved on the joystick. Finally, Nobita understood why Nobi Daichi was so confident. It turned out that it was not that Nobi Daichi was confident, but that he was a little stupid. He didn't even see such big characters. Instead, he asked Nobi Daichi what he could do. After quickly reading all the characters on the joystick and knowing what they meant, Nobita fell into silence. He said nothing, just quietly watching Nobita Daichi operate the joystick. But Nobita immediately thought of something. Oh, there should be 3 people on the spaceship in this dream world. In addition to him and Nobita Daichi, there should be another person. That person is Shizuka. But there is no Shizuka in this cockpit. So, Nobita turned his head suddenly and looked at the big iron door behind him. If nothing unexpected happens, Shizuka should be in the space behind the big iron door. Thinking of this, Nobita forgot the danger that the spaceship was about to face for a moment. He turned around and walked towards the door behind him. Nobita Daichi naturally noticed Nobita's behavior, but did not stop him at all. Seeing that Nobita had already walked to the door, he could enter the space behind by opening the door. The big iron door in front of Nobita opened without any preparation. Nobita standing in front of the door. He did not expect this situation at all and was frightened to stay where he was. The result was as expected. Nobita was directly stuck behind the door and was pressed back by the door. Seeing this scene, Nobita couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He really didn't expect that such an advanced and high-end door would use this kind of sliding door opening method. Shouldn't it be an automatic telescopic method? As long as a person stands in front of the door will open automatically. This time, through this strange door, plus the operating lever he was pressing, Nobita could already guess how unreliable the spaceship he and Nobita were on was. After the door was opened, Shizuka, who was also wearing a red tight spacesuit, walked in with a look of surprise. After seeing that Nobita was the only one in the room, Shizuka showed confusion on her face. After walking to Nobita's side, Shizuka asked her own questions. Number 1, why are you the only one here? Where is number 2? Number 1 is Nobita, number 2 is Nobita, and number 3 is naturally Shizuka herself. This dream world. Although the characters are chosen by oneself, the names of the characters in this dream world are not the same as those of real people. Each dream world has its own story. The characters in the story have already been planned with their names and what they should do. If there is no external interference, the dream world will operate according to its own trajectory. And Nobi Daichi's task is to change the trajectory of the dream world he is in now. Why does it feel like my task is similar to the system asking me to travel through other interfaces? Nobi Daichi said secretly in his heart. Under Nobi Daichi's control, the spacecraft has deviated from the original trajectory of the meteorite collision. Therefore, Nobi Daichi is also free to respond to Shizuka at this time. But Nobi Daichi did not speak, but pointed behind Shizuka. Shizuka turned her head and understood. Finally, she saw Nobita, who was still dizzy and not very clear-headed. After seeing Shizuka looking at him, Nobita immediately climbed down from the door and smiled apologetically at Shizuka. At the same time, he stammered. Shizuka, Shizuka, where did you go just now? Why didn't I see you? Shizuka, Shizuka? Shizuka looked confused and puzzled. Number 2, are you stupid? I'm number 3, not Shizuka. Hearing Shizuka's words, Nobita immediately refuted. Impossible, you are obviously Shizuka, because you look like Shizuka. Nobita didn't say the last 2 words same. After Nobita said this, his voice suddenly stopped. Because Nobita also thought of it. He is now in the dream world, although the person in front of him looks like Shizuka. But that was also set by himself. It's not that Shizuka had the same dream as him and as he. Thinking of this, Nobita's excited mood was like being poured with a basin of cold water, and his hot heart suddenly cooled down. But who is Nobita? He is a natural optimist. Although he may not be when he grows up, at least he is now, and that's enough. Therefore, Nobita's inner self-regulation ability is very good. So, is the question just now really important to him? True or false? What does it matter to him? After thinking through all this, Nobita's mood immediately changed from a state of loss to elation. What are you talking about? Number 2. Shizuka asked Nobita again with a puzzled look on her face. Well, it's okay. I recognized the wrong person just now. Nobita explained embarrassedly. Just looking at Shizuka's expression, she obviously didn't believe it. After all, Nobita's reaction was too strange, but Shizuka didn't continue to ask. The story of Nobita and Shizuka ended here. So Nobita and Shizuka looked at Nobi Daichi sitting on the chair again. Under Nobi Daichi's operation, they have successfully left the circle of meteorites. The surroundings are no longer filled with meteorites of various sizes, but only the vast and boundless starry sky. This is a dark and silent starry sky. A spaceship is dragging 2 blue tail flames behind it and driving alone in this starry sky. Having escaped the original fate of the spacecraft colliding with the meteorite, Nobi Daichi was thinking about what to do next. As for Shizuka and Nobita, they approached the transparent barrier in front and looked at the beautiful starry sky outside. Suddenly, Nobi Daichi's sight was attracted by a huge planet emitting a faint light not far ahead. According to Nobi Daichi's own speculation, that planet should be the Jurassic planet where they landed in the original dream world. Chapter 259 have to. It was just running according to the original world trajectory. They were forced to land on this Jurassic planet because the spaceship they were riding collided with a meteorite and something unexpected happened. But now under Nobi Daichi's change, the spaceship they were riding did not collide with the meteorite, so there was no accident with the spaceship. So he is now facing a problem. Do they still want to land on this Jurassic planet? According to Nobi Daichi's own idea, according to the requirements of the system requires changing the trajectory of the dream world. If he does not land on the Jurassic planet in front, it is definitely considered to have changed a large part of the trajectory of the dream world. The origin points obtained must be no less, even beyond his imagination. Thinking of this, Nobi Daichi's eyes flashed with light. But the next moment, Nobi Daichi's idea was shattered. The cockpit where Nobi Daichi was located was suddenly filled with red light. It turned out that a red alarm light located in the southeast corner of the cockpit ceiling began to flash. Nobi Daichi and Nobita both felt something was wrong when they saw this scene. However, they didn't know what was going on, and they were confused for a moment. Although Nobi Daichi didn't know why the red alarm light was flashing, he knew that it was probably some kind of rule in the dream world that was repairing the orbit of the world that he had destroyed. So Nobi Daichi looked at the planet in front of him that was emitting a faint white light in mottled colors. He had a bad premonition in his heart. They might still have to land on the Jurassic planet. Sure enough, after seeing this scene in the cockpit, the third tool Shizuka said anxiously, "It's broken. The spacecraft is running out of energy." What? Nobita was shocked when he heard Shizuka's words. Not enough energy? What kind of interstellar joke is this? When he thought about the spacecraft without energy, they felt a sense of despair as they drifted alone in the universe with a spaceship without energy. If it really became like that, what fun would it be? Even if Shizuka was with them, Nobi Daichi was different from Nobita. He had prepared for it beforehand. So when he heard Shizuka's words, he was surprised but not unacceptable. After seeing Nobita, then the speed of the spaceship suddenly became much faster. Although the surrounding starry sky seemed to be the same, if you carefully sense it, you can still find that the speed of the spaceship has increased. Nobita saw Nobi Daichi speeding up, and his target was the Jurassic planet in front. He couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Why do I feel that number 1 and number 2 are acting strange today? Nobita Shizuka looked at Nobita and Nobita who were acting strange today and couldn't help muttering in her heart. Under Nobi Daichi's operation, the spaceship has flown into the atmosphere of the Jurassic planet. Nobita and Shizuka are both standing next to Nobi Daichi. They are staring at the surrounding space environment through the transparent barrier in front. While driving the spaceship, Nobi Daichi seemed to have thought of something and said to Shizuka, Nobita, what's wrong?" Hearing Nobita calling her, Shizuka looked at Nobita strangely. Ahem. Nobi Daichi coughed to cover up his embarrassment. Originally, he didn't want to ask, didn't want to be exposed, but for the sake of the system's tasks, He didn't care so much. Do you know what our mission is this time? If you want to blame someone, blame the trailer of this dream world for giving too little information. Although this gives players more playability, it is also somewhat lacking. For example, for Nobi Daichi, he wants to know more information. The more information he knows, the better. Only in this way can he better help him complete the task. What is the mission this time? After hearing Nobi Daichi's words, Shizuka couldn't hold back her doubts anymore and couldn't help asking. Number 1, you didn't even forget what we came out for this time, did you? Nobita was a little confused when he heard Nobi Daichi's words and didn't know why Daichi asked this question. Now when he heard Shizuka's reply, he suddenly felt something was wrong. At the same time, Nobita couldn't help but complain in his heart. Why ask these questions? Of course I didn't forget. I just want to remind you in this way not to forget our mission. Nobi Daichi replied righteously, as if what he just said was exactly what he said. Nobita was shocked when he heard what Nobi Daichi said. Is there such a thick-skinned person in the world? Shizuka obviously didn't believe it and couldn't help rolling her eyes at Nobi Daichi. However, she didn't expose Nobi Daichi's flawed question, but said seriously, our mission this time is mainly to find a planet suitable for us to live. Hearing Shizuka's words, Nobi Daichi was shocked. According to Shizuka, Nobi Daichi estimated that there should be quite a few spaceships like this now. The next second, Nobi Daichi's guess came true. Alas, if we don't find a planet suitable for survival within a month, I'm afraid. At this point, Shizuka showed a sad look on her face. It's okay, as long as we work hard, I believe we will find it. Looking at Shizuka with a sad face. Although Nobita knew that this was not the real Shizuka, he still consoled Shizuka earnestly. Yeah. Shizuka replied to Nobita slightly. Then Shizuka looked at the environment outside, and her face was suddenly filled with joy. According to my observation, this planet should be suitable for human survival. Seeing the smile on Shizuka's face, Nobita couldn't help but nodded and smiled. Chapter 260 Raid. After listening to what Shizuka said, Nobi Daichi began to think about his next plan. What should I do next? Move the joystick to the right, and the direction of the spacecraft will also deviate to the right. As the spacecraft continues to descend, the clarity of the surrounding blurry environment that cannot be seen far away gradually increases. At this time, Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka have come to this layer covered with dark clouds. In the original dream world, the fate of their group should be forced to land on this Jurassic planet. The spacecraft crashed. Can only rely on their own wisdom to survive on this Jurassic planet. As for whether they can survive on this Jurassic planet in the end, whether they can be rescued, all this is unknown. And when watching the trailer of the dream world, the trailer did not tell them that there are other similar in spacecraft. These are all what Nobi Daichi learned from the mouth of number 3 Shizuka. So what they are going to do next, it is crucial, which is related to whether he can get as many origin points as possible. In the eyes of Nobi Daichi, in the trailer of the dream world, their final goal is to survive on this planet with difficulty. But that is only necessary if their spaceship crashes. But now their spaceship has not crashed, it just lacks energy. So Nobi Daichi wondered, can they find energy on this planet to replenish the spaceship? At this time, Nobi Daichi glanced at a button on the instrument in front of him. Emergency SOS button. Without hesitation, Nobi Daichi pressed it directly. This is just in case. If they don't find energy on this planet to replenish the spaceship, they can only ask others to save them. So far, Nobi Daichi feels that he has done most of the things he can change. After Nobi Daichi pressed the emergency SOS button on the spaceship, an invisible information wave shot out from the spaceship silently. It flew towards the silent and vast deep space of the universe at the speed of light and superluminal speed. Number 1, why did you press this button? Number 3 Shizuka asked puzzledly, after seeing Nobi Daichi press the emergency SOS button. There was even a hint of anger, unwillingness, and helplessness in her voice. Nobi Daichi was very surprised. Isn't pressing this button to save us? Why do you sound as if I have committed an unforgivable crime? Nobi Daichi's idea was indeed good. In Shizuka's opinion, pressing the emergency SOS button was indeed like committing an unforgivable crime. In Shizuka's opinion, the spacecraft just ran out of energy. Wouldn't it be fine if she could find energy on this planet and replenish it? She didn't believe it. On such a big planet, she couldn't even find energy for the spacecraft. Of course, this was not the main reason why Shizuka asked this question. The main reason was that she was afraid that others would take away her credit. You know, this is a planet that can allow humans to survive. As long as this information is reported, it will definitely be a great achievement. The credit and other rewards obtained are absolutely unimaginable. But if other people knew about this, the credit and reward of 3 people would become the credit and reward of 6, 10 or even more people who would be willing to do this. After all, they were the first to discover this planet suitable for human survival. However, the action of Nobi Daichi pressing the emergency call button really caught Shizuka off guard. She couldn't stop it. And in her opinion, someone as smart as number 1 shouldn't have thought of this problem. How could number 1, who was so smart before, be so confused today? Is number 1 so willing to give up the credit and reward that is about to be obtained to others? However, Shizuka didn't know. Nobi Daichi did this entirely for their safety. After all, one more layer of protection means one more guarantee. Isn't it a normal thing to press this emergency call button? Nobi Daichi first asked Shizuka in confusion. Then he continued. After all, our first priority now is to protect our safety. No matter how important other things are they more important than our safety? Although Nobi Daichi didn't know why Shizuka's mood had changed so much. But after connecting various things, Nobi Daichi was able to associate some key points. Therefore, he said such a thing. After hearing Nobi Daichi's meaningful words with other implications, Shizuka was asked for a moment and didn't know what to say. And Nobita, who was next to Nobi Daichi and Shizuka, listened to the inexplicable words of the two. He wanted to interrupt, but didn't know what to say, because he really couldn't understand what Nobi Daichi and Shizuka were saying. He was really powerless. Although Nobi Daichi was talking to Shizuka, he didn't forget that he was operating the spaceship. In fact, Nobi Daichi was thinking about a problem. If the spaceship immediately ran out of energy, the spaceship would definitely fall down because of the lack of energy. So after such a thing really happened, what will happen to him and Nobita? Was he waking up from a dream? Or, Nobi Daichi's thoughts suddenly broke away from it. It turned out that in front of the spaceship, a 7 or 8 meter long pterosaur was rushing towards them. If the spaceship they were riding collided with the pterosaur, then the result. Nobi Daichi really didn't know, because he didn't know much about the spaceship he was riding now. From the perspective of size, the spaceship they were riding didn't have much advantage over the pterosaur, because their spaceship seemed to be a small spaceship. But it was quite normal to think about it. After all, their original mission was just to find another planet suitable for human survival. It's not like they were going to start a star war. But this also led to a serious problem for them now. Their spaceship was not suitable for fighting. Of course. This doesn't mean that there is no combat equipment on the spaceship. It's just that you have to use these combat equipment at a long distance. And the pterosaur that rushed towards the spaceship suddenly appeared from the clouds, which really caught Nobi Daichi off guard. It must be too late to launch an attack. Nobi Daichi didn't want to let the pterosaur compete with the spaceship to see who was stronger. If the strong competition failed, the result would be unimaginable. Therefore, Nobi Daichi manipulated the joystick to the left, and the spaceship immediately turned to the left at a high speed. Nobita and Shizuka in the cockpit were both shocked by the pterosaur that suddenly appeared not far from the spaceship. They could not help but stand there in a daze. Chapter 261 Landing. Therefore, Nobita and Shizuka were not prepared for Nobi Daichi's sudden turn. The huge inertia brought by the turn of the spacecraft directly made Nobita and Shizuka stagger in the cockpit. It was not that Nobi Daichi did not want to remind Nobita and Shizuka that he had to turn. It was just that the pterosaur in front of the spacecraft appeared too suddenly, and he had no time to remind Nobita and Shizuka to stand firm. Under Nobi Daichi's operation, the spacecraft almost passed under the pterosaur. Nobi Daichi couldn't help but sweat a lot. Fortunately, the spacecraft did not collide with the 7 or 8 meter long pterosaur. After finding that it had not successfully captured the prey, the pterosaur screamed angrily, then turned and flew again to the spaceship where Nobita Daichi and others were. Through the detection equipment in front of him, Nobita Daichi saw a red dot approaching rapidly and was startled. He immediately thought that the pterosaur might be unwilling to die and wanted to attack them again. "Are you fucking sick? Did I provoke you?" Nobi Daichi cursed in his heart. But this time, Nobi Daichi did not run again. The speed of the spaceship they were riding was certainly enough to get rid of the pterosaur chasing them. But this was not a good way. The best way was to attack. The best defense was to attack. And the previous things made Nobi Daichi feel angry. Anyone who was attacked for no reason, or suddenly, would probably not be able to bear it. Because this caused him to be frightened. Nobita and Shizuka had also climbed up from the ground in the cockpit. In the surprised eyes of Nobita and Shizuka, the spaceship they were riding suddenly turned and stopped. The spaceship that Nobi Daichi and his friends were riding was different from a fighter. Fighters could not stay in place for a long time. And the spaceship that Nobi Daichi and his friends were riding was different from a fighter. Fighters could not stay in place for a long time. And the spaceship that Nobi Daichi and his friends were riding was. But it was because of some kind of science and technology that they could stay in the air without falling. Through the transparent barrier in front of the cockpit, Nobi Daichi secretly said, "Sure enough, the pterosaur that attacked them before really swooped down on them again." Seeing that the pterosaur that attacked them was getting closer and closer to them, Nobita's face turned pale. Although Shizuka was much better than Nobita, she still couldn't help feeling a little scared. Nobi Daichi, who was sitting in the driver's seat, finally reached out and pressed a blue button next to the red emergency call button. Boom. A blue laser suddenly shot out from the tip of the front of the spacecraft. It shot at the pterosaur at lightning speed. Under the gaze of Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka, the pterosaur hit by the blue laser exploded directly with a loud bang, and countless fragments fell downwards. Although the pterosaur's explosion made a loud noise, but Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka who were in the cockpit obviously couldn't hear it. They could only see the pterosaur that was hit by the blue laser being shattered into blood flowers all over the sky. Of course, due to the distance, they could not see the details clearly. Nobita looked at the pterosaur that had chased them and died just like that, and for some reason he felt a little upset. But when he thought that this was just a dream, he felt much better. As for Shizuka, she looked at this scene with a very calm face, as if she was used to it. After destroying the pterosaur, before Nobi Daichi could breathe a sigh of relief, his pupils suddenly shrank. Because he saw the energy situation. After hearing Shizuka's words about energy before, Nobi Daichi deliberately searched the instrument in front of him. As expected, he found the display panel showing the energy situation. At this time, the energy display panel had less than 2% of energy left. Of course, it was not only this much before. It was just that after Nobi Daichi fired the blue laser, the energy suddenly decreased a lot. If he knew that launching an attack would use so much energy, Nobi Daichi would definitely not launch an attack. Just slip away. Wouldn't it be good to keep more energy to deal with other unknown accidents that may happen? But it's obviously useless to regret now. Nobi Daichi's current task is to quickly find a place to land the spacecraft safely. At this time, the spacecraft is only a few hundred meters away from the ground and under the control of Nobi Daichi. The distance between the spacecraft where Nobi Daichi and others are located and the ground is constantly shrinking, and shrinking. When the spacecraft is less than 100 meters from the ground, Nobi Daichi finally found a place suitable for them to land. Half a minute later, the spacecraft slowly landed on a hilltop that was tens of meters long and wide. The dust on the ground was blown all over the sky by the driving force of the spacecraft. But for some reason, the surrounding dust did not fall into any corner of the spacecraft. The small animals around were also scared and ran away from this place early. As for large dinosaurs, there are none here. It is precisely because of this situation that Nobi Daichi chose to land in this place. At this time, the spacecraft still has 1% of energy left. However, according to Nobi Daichi's speculation, although the energy panel shows this, it is estimated that the 1% of energy may become 0% at any time. Located on the side of the spacecraft, A door that is large enough for one person to enter and exit retracted to the right, revealing a dark door. At the same time, a staircase automatically extended toward the ground and quickly turned into a ladder. After the door was opened and the ladder was built, a head poked out carefully from the dark door. "No to, hurry up and get out. Don't block the door," Nobi Daichi said helplessly. The person who was like a thief at the door was Nobita. In order not to be exposed and also to better experience this dream world, Nobita Daichi discussed with Nobita and temporarily called each other by their current identities. Okay. Nobita knew clearly that this planet was the Jurassic planet and there were countless dinosaurs on this planet. So Nobita couldn't help but be afraid for a moment and didn't want to go out so quickly. But under Nobita Daichi's urging, Nobita had to bite the bullet and walk out of the spacecraft. Daichi Nobi was speechless watching this scene. "Who made you so anxious to walk in the front?" Then Daichi Nobi and Shizuka walked out of the spaceship one after another. Step. Stepping on the ladder. Daichi Nobi got down from the spaceship smoothly and stepped on the ground of the planet. Daichi Nobi felt his own physical condition, and there was nothing unusual. But it was normal to think about it. After all, when watching the trailer of the dream world of Jurassic Planet, the original protagonist and his group of 3 were walking safely on this planet. Chapter 262 Dilemma. After stepping on the ground of this strange planet, Shizuka also showed a surprised smile on her face. "What should we do now?" Nobita hid behind Nobita Daichi, observed the surroundings, and said carefully, "Let's find the energy source of the spacecraft first." Nobita Daichi said without hesitation. This is their top priority now. Only after finding the energy source first can they survive better on this planet full of dinosaurs. "Yes, our mission is to find the energy source first." Shizuka stood in front of Nobita Daichi and Nobita with an instrument that can detect energy in her hand and said without turning her head. After saying this, Shizuka took the lead to walk down the mountain. Nobita Daichi and Nobita naturally followed closely. As for the several meter long spacecraft behind them, it stood quietly in place. Nobita Daichi and his men were not worried about the safety of the spacecraft, because the surface of the spacecraft they were riding was made of some unknown mixed metal. The defense power was very amazing. It is said that the spacecraft will not be damaged at all if it is directly bombarded with a missile. These are the words that Nobi Daichi got out of Shizuka. As for the dinosaurs on this planet, Nobi Daichi estimated that even if some dinosaurs were really powerful, but it would be very troublesome to destroy this spaceship. The most important thing is that it is a thankless task. This spaceship is very unattractive to those dinosaurs. It is far less attractive than those food. If you have this time, go find some food. Isn't it delicious? Following behind Shizuka, Nobi Daichi and Nobita gradually moved slowly from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain. After being attacked by pterosaurs in the sky before, Shizuka also knew that this planet was not simple, so she was particularly cautious when going down the mountain. The energy that Nobi Daichi and his friends were looking for was very different from what Nobi Daichi imagined. According to Shizuka, the energy they were looking for was a kind of glowing stone. When Nobi Daichi heard what Shizuka said, he was really incredible. The energy they were looking for was actually a kind of glowing stone. Fluorescent stone. This thought popped up in Nobi Daichi's mind. But Nobi Daichi also knew that what Shizuka was looking for was definitely not fluorescent stone. Perhaps it was another kind of luminous stone that he had never heard of. Then he thought that this was a dream world. Here, even the most outrageous things would become normal, not to mention that it was not so abnormal to use luminous stones as energy. Therefore, Nobi Daichi did not think there was anything wrong. As for Nobita, his acceptance was even stronger. After hearing what Shizuka said, he immediately believed it, without any hesitation or disbelief. Nobi Daichi could not help but admire Nobita a little. Logically speaking, in Nobi Daichi's impression, since they were looking for stones, the place where they were was exactly the top of the mountain. There were stones almost everywhere, so the luminous stones should be hidden here, right? But obviously not the case. Under the leadership of Shizuka, they came down from the top of the mountain without any pause. What relieved Nobi Daichi was that they did not encounter a dinosaur along the way. This made Nobi Daichi happy, but he couldn't help but feel a little confused. It's impossible that there is no dinosaur on such a big mountain. When they came down, what appeared in front of Nobi Daichi and his companions was a dense and tall primeval forest. Then, number 3, we are not going to enter there, are we? Nobi Daichi couldn't help swallowing his saliva and said. As for Nobita, he looked at Nobita's changing face with a puzzled look. I don't know why Nobita's face suddenly became ugly. This is a very normal thing. The so-called ignorance is fearless. Nobita's knowledge in this area is very scarce. He doesn't know what terrible things are in the dense primeval forest. But Nobita is different. His knowledge is much broader than Nobita, and he has studied things in this area. He knows that the forest is full of ferocious dinosaurs. With his eyesight, he has seen several dinosaurs climbing on the trees. Any one of them is at least more than 1 meter. If they meet it, there is only one ending, that is to run. The most important thing is that they may not be able to run away because the forest is full of thorns and various obstacles. This is why Nobi Daichi said this hesitantly. Yes, the energy shown on the detection instrument is in the forest ahead. Shizuka replied as a matter of course. Maybe she was afraid that Nobi Daichi would not believe it. She also handed the detection instrument to Nobi Daichi and let Nobi Daichi take a look. Then Shizuka said excitedly, and that place is very close to us, only 2 kilometers away, close to 3 kilometers away. But Nobi Daichi was stunned when he heard Shizuka's words. Not to mention that the energy is in the primeval forest ahead. It is actually nearly 3 kilometers deep in the primeval forest. If it is on the plain, 3 kilometers is just like that. Although there are obstacles from dinosaurs, it is not unacceptable if you are determined. But 3 kilometers deep in the primeval forest ahead, Nobi Daichi really doesn't know what to say. What's wrong? After saying this excitedly, Shizuka looked at Nobi Daichi, who looked unhappy, and asked curiously, No 3, do you know what's in there? Hearing Nobi Daichi's question, Shizuka fell silent. She was just happy that she could find energy right away, but she forgot that there were very ferocious animals here. It's just that finding energy is a must. Looking at Shizuka with a tangled face, Nobi Daichi asked, Besides the place ahead, can we find energy in other places? Huh? Hearing Nobi Daichi's words, Shizuka was stunned, and then her face turned bitter. Yes, there is, but except for the energy ore closest to us in front. The nearest place is tens of kilometers or hundreds of kilometers away. Nobi Daichi. He glanced at the dense primeval forest in front of him. Nobi Daichi couldn't help but feel a toothache. It seems that the place ahead must be visited. Nobita, who was next to the two, saw Nobi Daichi and Shizuka chatting enthusiastically. He felt a little unhappy, but he didn't understand the conversation between the two and didn't know what he could say, so he could only remain silent. After thinking for a while, Nobi Daichi said to Shizuka resolutely, How about you wait here? I will go into the forest to find energy ore by myself. No way. It's too dangerous. Who would have thought that Shizuka rejected Nobi Daichi's proposal without thinking? It's okay, I'm very agile. Nobi Daichi was unwilling to give up and wanted to continue to work hard. Chapter 263 Enter. Who would have thought? It would have been fine if Nobi Daichi hadn't said this, but as soon as he mentioned Shizuka, she couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. Among the 3 of us, who doesn't know each other? With your mediocre skills, huh? Shizuka looked at Nobi Daichi jokingly. This made Nobi Daichi's teeth ache even more. How about this? The 3 of us go to the primeval forest ahead to take a look. If the situation is really unavoidable, we will search for other places with energy ores. This is the only way at present. Shizuka finally gave a suggestion that Nobi Daichi felt was quite pertinent. This made Nobi Daichi sigh. I didn't expect that the NPC in the dream world could also think of such a method. Therefore, Nobi Daichi and Shizuka hit it off, and the matter was settled. As for Nobita, just obey. Nobi Daichi and the other 2 checked their own conditions before walking carefully into the primeval forest. At the same time, the 3 of them pulled out a laser gun from their waists and held it carefully in both hands. They were less than 40 or 50 meters away from the entrance of the forest. It would take only a few seconds to completely enter the range of the primeval forest. Seeing that they were about to enter the primeval forest, a 2-meter tall Venator Rex emerged directly from a patch of grass and rushed towards them. Seeing this scene, Nobi Daichi and Nobita both clenched the laser guns in their hands. The guns were pointed at the Venator Rex running towards them. But what was beyond Nobi Daichi's expectation was that Shizuka not only did not point the gun at the Venator Rex, but also put the gun back to his waist. That was fine. He and Nobita with laser guns were not invincible against the Venator Rex. A scene that made Nobi Daichi even more worried appeared. After Shizuka put away the gun, she actually ran towards the Venator Rex without dodging. Number 3. Seeing this sudden situation, Nobita couldn't help but scream, and he was very anxious. Nobita, calm down. Number 2 shouldn't be so stupid. Seeing Nobita rushing towards the Venatoraptor with a gun in hand, Nobita shouted at him. Nobita was immediately awakened from his panic. Then Nobita stopped. Although Nobita stopped chasing Shizuka, he couldn't stop worrying about it. Under Nobita's puzzled and worried eyes, Shizuka had already rushed in front of the Venatoraptor. Then a scene that made Nobita and Nobita's jaws drop appeared. Shizuka, who rushed in front of the Venatoraptor, jumped and hugged the Venatoraptor's neck. Then, Shizuka, who was hugging the Venatoraptor's neck, twisted her hands to the left. The Venatoraptor was directly overturned and fell to the ground. After seeing the Venatoraptor fall to the ground, Shizuka waved her fist and smashed it on the Venatoraptor's head. The Venatoraptor was hit so hard that it saw stars and fainted. Nobi Daichi and Nobita, who were watching this incredible scene not far away, were both shocked. I thought you were just a bronze, at most a silver, but you turned out to be a king? After seeing the Hunteraptor being knocked down by him, Shizuka stood up, clapped his hands, and walked back to Nobi Daichi and Nobita. Looking at Nobi Daichi and Nobita who were stunned in the same place, Shizuka said, "Hey, don't be stunned, we should go." Nobita woke up. As for Nobi Daichi, he was just shocked by the sudden strength of Shizuka for less than a second, and then he woke up. Nobi Daichi felt it. His strength was actually completely preserved in the dream world. However, he only retained the strength of the early stage of the mortal realm and the ability to transform into the Emperor Man. As for other things, he couldn't take out things like those in the system space. While feeling happy, Nobi Daichi was constantly guessing in his heart. Why did he have strength in the dream? Last time in Nobita's dream, he preserved his strength, which was fine. After all, what happened last time was very strange. But this time, he used the dream machine to come to this dream world. It stands to reason that he should not bring his own strength here. Is it his own problem, the system's problem, or the dream machine's problem? Nobita was stunned by the sudden burst of strength of Shizuka. Nobi Daichi was stunned because he was thinking about why his strength was brought to the dream world. But he didn't think clearly, and it was impossible to think clearly. At least now Nobi Daichi couldn't think clearly, but he was interrupted by what Shizuka said. After seeing Nobita and Nobita Daichi woke up, Shizuka continued to walk into the forest on his own. Nobita Daichi and Nobita naturally followed closely. It must be said, the trees on this Jurassic planet are really very tall. The trees are generally very tall, especially the primitive forest in front of Nobita Daichi and others. 10 meters high is low end, dozens of meters high is standard, and 100 meters high is good. I don't know what season it is now. Every tree was covered with dense branches and leaves. As soon as they entered this primeval forest, Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka felt that the surrounding environment had become dim. Fortunately, it was daytime. The rays of light that came out from the gaps between the branches and leaves brought a lot of light to the dim environment, so that Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka could still roughly see the surrounding plants and trees. But they didn't know why. This Jurassic planet has been covered by dark clouds so far, and there is no trace of sunlight in the sky. Swish. Nobi Daichi and his companions stepped on the dry branches and leaves, making a crisp sound. They didn't dare to make too much noise, for fear of attracting other dinosaurs. They were not afraid of small dinosaurs, but if they encountered a group of small dinosaurs, they had to run away. As for encountering large dinosaurs, such as Tyrannosaurus Rex, their consequences. Although Nobi Daichi could blow up a small car with one punch, it was hard to say what the result would be if he fought with the Tyrannosaurus Rex. With the size of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, one kick should be able to crush a small car, right? So the best experience for Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka is not to encounter a dinosaur. But this is obviously a pipe dream and very unrealistic. After walking for 4 or 5 minutes, Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka had walked several hundred meters. At this time, they had come to the foot of a towering tree. This is a real towering tree. It is impossible to hug the trunk of this giant tree without more than a dozen people joining forces. Nobi Daichi and his friends did not stop here to rest. After all, they have not walked for long. The reason they stopped here is because there is a group of Venatoraptors in front of them. Unexpectedly, in addition to the Venatoraptors that was knocked unconscious by Shizuka, there are other Venatoraptors. There are so many Venatoraptors. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264 Discussion. Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka were less than 100 meters away from the Hunteraptors in front of them. Because there were dense trees between them and the Hunteraptors did not find them. However, for safety, Nobi Daichi and his companions did not make too much noise. As for the crisp sound of the dead branches and rotten leaves on the ground, they were all covered by the rustling sound of branches and leaves in the woods, making them particularly inconspicuous. Looking at those Hunteraptors that were taller than him, Nobita did not dare to breathe. Now Nobita has regretted it a little. If he had known, he would not have chosen this dangerous dream world. Who would have thought that the dream world he casually chose would bring him such a great excitement? But if possible, he would never want to come to such a dream world again. Because it was not a dream world constructed by himself, Nobita could not be omnipotent in this dream world. It's better to dream in your own dreams, Nobita said secretly in his heart. Nobi Daichi and Shizuka stood in front of Nobita, observing the situation ahead. No one. Number 3. What should we do? Nobita whispered to Nobi Daichi and Shizuka in front of him. How about just rushing over? Shizuka looked eager to try, but as soon as she said it, she was strongly opposed by Nobi Daichi and Nobita. If it was on the plane, Nobi Daichi was confident that with his speed, after transforming into Emperor Man, he would definitely be able to get rid of those hunter thieves even with Nobita and Shizuka. But this is a primeval forest with trees and thorns. No matter how fast you go, if you are not familiar with this place, it will not be very effective. Because you are not familiar with the situation here, if you rush rashly, you may bump into something. Although it is impossible for Nobi Daichi to get hurt. But for Nobita and Shizuka who are being taken by him, it is not certain. Just hearing the opposition of Nobi Daichi and Nobita, Shizuka was not discouraged at all. Instead, he smiled mischievously. Then what do you think we should do? This? Nobi Daichi and Nobita hesitated for a moment. Shizuka's suggestion was actually not wrong. In front of them, the only place where the Venatoraptors were located was where they could walk. On both sides of the dozen Venatoraptors were dangerous swamps with bubbles. It was no exaggeration to say that, as long as Nobi Daichi and his men rushed into the swamp, they would definitely sink. And the swamp covered a very large area, so it would not work for Nobi Daichi and his men to go around. Looking at Nobi Daichi and Nobita who fell into silence, Shizuka said proudly, "How is it? Have you figured it out? Just follow the plan I said. Why think so much?" Looking at the proud Shizuka, Nobi Daichi felt quite speechless and said, "Can you deal with those dozen dinosaurs alone?" This. Although I don't know why number 1 called those strange animals dinosaurs. But Shizuka felt that the name dinosaur fits the image of those strange animals very well. What a strange name, Shizuka muttered in her heart. Thinking about this, Shizuka completely forgot that Nobi Daichi was waiting for her to answer his question. Hey, number 3, can you deal with those dinosaurs alone? Looking at Shizuka like this, how could Nobi Daichi not know? It must be that Shizuka thought of something else and thought about it in a wrong way. He had no choice but to ask Shizuka his question again. In order to prevent Shizuka from coming back to her senses, he even deliberately said 3 hey words in a row to strengthen his tone. Reminded by Nobi Daichi's words, Shizuka also woke up, and her face couldn't help but blush when she thought about her previous situation. Seeing that the arrogant No 3 actually showed such an expression, Nobi Daichi was really a little surprised. After calming down, Shizuka said embarrassedly, "No, Nobi Daichi, then where do you get the courage to say that we rush through those dinosaurs? I can deal with 6 or 7 of those dinosaurs by myself." Shizuka directly borrowed the name that Nobi Daichi used to refer to those strange animals, including you. Each of you can deal with at least 4 or 5, right? As for the rest, the extra ones will definitely run away after they see that they can't beat us. Isn't that the end? It's quite simple, Shizuka said as if it were a matter of course. Looking at Shizuka, who was serious and took it for granted, Nobi Daichi really wanted to say something. "You are probably dreaming." Of course, he would never say such a thing, at least not in front of Nobita. Otherwise, his wise and handsome image would be gone. Ahem, overthinking. Looking at Nobita and Shizuka, who were looking at him and waiting for him to make a decision, Nobi Daichi coughed lightly and said, "Number 3, your suggestion is quite good, but, speaking of this." Nobi Daichi paused and turned to Nobita. "Number 2, your task is less. How about letting you deal with 4? No, no, no." Hearing Nobi Daichi's words, Nobita was frightened and turned pale. He felt that it was hard for him to deal with 1. And now he was given 4 directly. Isn't this a direct statement to him? You are dead. So Nobita absolutely cannot accept Nobi Daichi's proposal. Listening to the conversation between Nobi Daichi and Nobita, and watching Nobita's performance, Shizuka felt a little uneasy and had a bad premonition. Number 2, don't tell me that you can't even deal with 4 dinosaurs like this. I really can't deal with them. Nobita knew this kind of thing. He couldn't hide it, even if he wanted to, so he might as well admit it, in order to avoid them really asking him to deal with 4 dinosaurs later. It seems that Nobita, your usual training has been in vain. You must have been lazy. You can't even deal with a few dinosaurs like this, Shizuka said to Nobita with a sense of disappointment. If you don't train well during normal times, you will be at a loss when you really encounter problems. Well, in short, wait for death. However, after teaching Nobita a lesson, Shizuka seemed to be deflated. For a moment, he couldn't think of any better way. Nobita carefully glanced at the deflated Shizuka, and his heart couldn't help but feel relieved. Fortunately, this is not the real Shizuka, Nobita thought secretly in his heart. If the Shizuka he likes is the domineering and arrogant Shizuka in front of him, he wants to die. To be honest, that kind of Shizuka. It's not that he doesn't like her, but how can he say it? There is a weird feeling. But fortunately, all this is a dream. Shizuka in the real world is still so gentle and cute. Chapter 265 Give. In reality, Shizuka is still so gentle, cute, and considerate. If possible, Nobita doesn't mind using all the beautiful words he can think of for Shizuka. Nobi Daichi stood next to Shizuka and Nobita, saying nothing. After Shizuka and Nobita finished talking, Nobi Daichi spoke. Number 2 will watch from behind, and you and number 3 can go together. Huh. Hearing Nobi Daichi's words, Shizuka's face suddenly became bad. There was suspicion in his eyes. Looking at this scene, Nobi Daichi was a little helpless. It seems that because of Nobita, Shizuka didn't even believe him. Can you really do it? Don't worry, leave it to me. Nobi Daichi patted his chest and said confidently. Hearing Nobi Daichi's confident words, the disbelief in Shizuka's eyes was reduced a little. Then let's do it. Shizuka was also straightforward and made the decision directly. After deciding what to do next, Nobi Daichi and Shizuka turned around and looked through the bushes in front of them at the group of hunter raptors in front of them. At this time, the group of hunter raptors still stayed in place. Nobi Daichi looked carefully and found that the hunter raptors were eating food. No wonder they didn't move after so long. Just when Nobi Daichi and Shizuka wanted to go forward and deal with those hunter raptors, Nobi Daichi suddenly turned his head and whispered to Nobita. Number 2, protect yourself. Nobi Daichi did not expect Nobita to help him and Shizuka, but only asked him not to cause trouble. Okay. Nobita was stunned for a moment and replied instinctively. After saying that, Nobita realized that he was being disliked. But Nobita didn't have time to act. Nobi Daichi and Shizuka had already jumped over the bushes and rushed towards the group of hunter raptors. After seeing Nobi Daichi and Shizuka running towards the group of hunter raptors, Nobita couldn't help but tighten the laser gun in his hand. Nobita. Nobita. Just as Nobita was tense and looked at the group of hunter raptors, a familiar voice that frightened Nobita suddenly reached Nobita's ears. Who? Nobita stuttered, pointing his gun around randomly. Nobita is really timid. Hearing this increasingly familiar voice, Nobita suddenly turned his head. Finally, he found out who was calling him. It was Doraemon. At this time, a space door several tens of centimeters high appeared in the air beside Nobita and Doraemon's big head. On the other side of this small space door, he was looking at Nobita helplessly. Doraemon. After seeing Doraemon, Nobita first called Doraemon with a look of surprise. Then Nobita's face changed, and he said to Doraemon angrily, Doraemon, why did you scare me for no reason? Looking at Nobita who looked angry, Doraemon knew that he was in the wrong, scratched his head embarrassedly, and said to Nobita, Nobita, I'm sorry, I was wrong just now. Doraemon apologized to Nobita first, and then continued. After hearing Doraemon's apology, Nobita did not delve into this issue. Instead, he looked at Doraemon who was looking at him through the small space door with a look of surprise. This is a unique function of the Dream Machine, which allows people outside to communicate with the dreamer. After hearing what Doraemon said, Nobita finally understood what was going on. Nobita, Daisy and the others are fighting with the group of hunter raptors. Won't you go to help? Doraemon continued after seeing Nobita understand. This time it was Nobita's turn to scratch his head, embarrassed. Doraemon did not expose Nobita, but said, it's okay, I'm leaving. No, don't go. Hearing Doraemon was leaving, Nobita hurriedly called Doraemon. What's wrong? Doraemon asked in confusion. Doraemon, can you give me some props to help me? Nobita begged. Hearing Nobita's request, Doraemon hesitated. But thinking of what happened just now, and looking at Nobita's pleading eyes, Doraemon still softened his heart and said, okay then. Yeah. After hearing Doraemon agree to his request, Nobita jumped up happily and made a victory gesture. Nobita had already thought of the scene of killing everyone after he had the props given by Doraemon. When he thought of Daz's shock and Shizuka looking at him in admiration, Nobita couldn't help but get excited. Doraemon did not break his promise. After agreeing to give Nobita the props, he turned over the props in the 4-dimensional pocket. 5 seconds later, Nobita looked at the air cannon and shrinking gun in his hand and was dumbfounded. Hey, Doraemon, can you? There are only 2 props, and they are still not enough to make him wantonly kill all around. How can Nobita be satisfied? So he hurriedly called Doraemon. He wanted Doraemon to give him some more props, or if not, he could replace them with other props. But Doraemon seemed to have not heard Nobita's anxious words. He disappeared in front of Nobita with the space gate. Looking at the space gate and Doraemon disappearing in front of him, Nobita felt a little sorry. Looking at the air cannon and shrinking light in his hand, thinking that it is better to have it than not, he felt relieved. Nobita's house, 2nd floor bedroom. Nobi Daichi and Nobita covered themselves with the quilt and lay in the bed, looking at the 2 sleeping people. People who didn't know would really think they were sleeping. Doraemon was sitting in front of the dream machine. He naturally heard Nobita's anxious and dissatisfied words, but his greatest limit was to give Nobita these 2 props. Otherwise, with Nobita's personality, who knows what will happen with the countless props he gave him. In fact, if he wasn't soft-hearted, he would only give Nobita an air cannon. It was only after thinking again and again that he gave Nobita an extra prop, the shrinking light. After disappearing in front of Nobita, Doraemon switched the screen on the dream machine to the side of Nobi Daichi and Shizuka. When looking at the scene on the screen, Doraemon exclaimed, how is this possible? Dream world, Jurassic planet. Nobita was hiding in the bushes at the back. Nobi Daichi and Shizuka jumped out of the bushes and ran towards the group of hunter raptors. When Nobi Daichi and Shizuka jumped out of the bushes and ran towards the hunter raptors, a hunter raptors with a strong sense of danger in the hunter raptors group suddenly stopped eating, looked in the direction where Nobi Daichi and Shizuka were running, After discovering the two uninvited guests, Nobi Daichi and Shizuka, the Venator opened its mouth and seemed to say something. After this Venator, which has a strong sense of danger, opened its mouth and said something. Chapter 266 coming soon. The other hunter raptors stopped eating and looked up at Nobi Daichi and Shizuka, who were rushing over. Nobi Daichi had expected this situation to happen to the hunter raptor group, so he didn't feel any surprise. As for Shizuka, she didn't have any other emotions either, and it seemed that she had expected it. Stepping on the ground covered with fallen branches and leaves, Nobi Daichi ran towards the hunter raptor group. Nobi Daichi passed by the dead branches and rotten leaves on the ground. Only a yellow leaf was accidentally lifted up. As light as a swallow, the legendary Kingang is just like this. Although Nobi Daichi has not practiced any Kingang secrets, but with his control over his own muscles and strength, it is not a problem to run to this extent. As for Shizuka, her speed is also not slow. She followed closely behind Nobi Daichi 3 steps. Of course, this is only relative, and Nobi Daichi has not used his full strength yet. As for the hunter raptor group, all the hunter raptors stood there and stared at Nobi Daichi and Shizuka. Finally, the hunter raptor in the front ran towards Nobi Daichi and Shizuka. However, after running for dozens of meters, the hunter raptor suddenly stopped. There was no human figure in front of the hunter raptor. The hunter raptor looked back and found that Nobi Daichi and Shizuka had already rushed into their tribe. Without hesitation, the hunter raptor turned around and ran back to their tribe. After entering the hunter raptor tribe, Nobi Daichi found that these hunter raptors were easier to deal with than he thought. With his agile speed, Nobi Daichi almost punched a little friend one by one. And in this constant and almost crushing battle, Nobi Daichi also gained a lot of combat experience and became more and more familiar with dealing with hunter raptors. If it happens again, he will definitely be able to deal with these hunter raptors better and faster. Of course, they didn't want to kill these hunter raptors, they just wanted to knock them out. As for the laser gun, it was not easy to use in this situation. It was more convenient to use your fists. Shizuka dealt with these hunter raptors, although it was not as easy as Nobi Daichi, who punched one little friend at a time. It was also relatively easy. It really surprised Nobi Daichi a little. Even though he had seen Shizuka deal with a hunter raptor before, he was mentally prepared. Under the joint efforts of Nobi Daichi and Shizuka, more than a dozen hunter raptors were knocked out by the two and lay on the ground. It is estimated that they cannot stand up without a buffer time. Just after Nobi Daichi and Shizuka solved the entire hunter raptor clan, Nobita also came out of the bushes and ran towards Nobi Daichi and Shizuka excitedly. When he ran to the side of Nobi Daichi and Shizuka, he saw that all the hunter raptors were lying on the ground motionless. Although Nobita was very happy, he was more regretful. He hadn't used Doraemon's props to show his power yet, and he hadn't seen the admiration of Shizuka for him. The battle ended just like that. Nobita's doubts in his eyes were naturally seen by Nobita's Daichi. Nobita Daichi thought about it for a while and knew why Nobita had such emotions, and he was speechless. Outside, in front of the dream machine, looking at the scene of Nobita Daichi and Shizuka killing everyone, Doraemon couldn't help but frowned. Doraemon really didn't expect Nobita Daichi to be so powerful. It's okay to be powerful in reality, but you have to know that this is a dream world. How can it be so powerful? Doraemon was puzzled. As for the powerful strength shown by Shizuka, in Doraemon's view, it should be Shizuka as a character in the dream world. Maybe she is so powerful. So Doraemon was only slightly surprised by the strength shown by Shizuka. It's really strange. Doraemon looked back at the locked up, sleeping Nobi Daichi and muttered. He shook his head. Doraemon stopped thinking about it and looked at the screen showing the status of Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka. Number 1. Number 1, have you solved it? Nobita couldn't help asking as he looked at the fallen Venatoraptors all over the floor. Because he couldn't believe it. Nobita almost called out Nobi Daichi's real name, but fortunately he reacted in time. Yeah. Before Nobi Daichi spoke, Shizuka had already answered Nobita's question. Oh. Okay, since these dinosaurs have been solved, in order to prevent accidents, let's leave here quickly and look for energy ores, right? Nobita Daichi interrupted Nobita and Shizuka, who wanted to continue talking, and said, "Yeah." Nobita and Shizuka had no objection, because they knew that Nobi Daichi was right, and now was not the time to say more. Leaving here first was the most correct choice. So Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka walked around the fallen Venatoraptors and continued to walk to the place where the energy ore was. After Nobi Daichi and his group walked for more than 10 minutes, the Venatoraptors that fell on the ground finally staggered up one by one. After the Venatoraptors got up, they looked around cautiously. After finding that Nobi Daichi and Shizuka were not there, the Venatoraptors picked up the food that had not been eaten on the ground and ran in the opposite direction of Nobi Daichi and his group. Bypassing the Venatoraptors, Nobi Daichi and Nobita followed Shizuka, who was holding the detection instrument, and continued to go deeper into the primeval forest. "No 2, how far are we from our destination?" Nobi Daichi asked Shizuka, who was walking in front, staring at the detection instrument in his hand and looking up at the front from time to time. "Well, there are less than 500 meters away." Shizuka paused in place, thought for a while, and replied. Hearing Shizuka's reply, Nobita's tired eyes suddenly became full of energy. Victory is just ahead. However, when he thought about having to walk back soon, Nobita's spirited expression suddenly collapsed. 500 meters left, not far away. Nobi Daichi muttered in his heart. "Let's walk faster and rest after we find the energy ore." After bypassing the group of hunter raptors, Nobita Daichi and his team rested for a while during this journey. Then it took some time to get here. But in the meantime, they were lucky not to encounter any dinosaur attacks. They naturally encountered other dinosaurs or dinosaur groups during this journey. But either they bypassed these dinosaurs or dinosaur groups, or these dinosaurs or dinosaur groups didn't even pay attention to them. These dinosaurs that didn't even look at Nobita Daichi and his team were all gentle herbivorous dinosaurs. Chapter 267. So close. Nobita and Shizuka, who had previously followed Nobita's advice and escaped disaster, nodded in agreement with Nobita's proposal. Then Shizuka led the way, Nobita in the middle, and Nobita at the end. The group walked in the dark forest. From time to time, one or two tall dinosaurs could be seen around them. The terrifying roars came from the original place into the ears of Nobita and the other two. Nobita and Shizuka, who were already accustomed to the roars of dinosaurs, had calm faces. Only Nobita couldn't help shaking. Although they were only about 500 meters away from the destination, it was not so easy to reach the destination in a short time. 500 meters. The end can be seen at a glance in the open space. But in this primitive forest full of trees and thorns, only the next tall tree can be seen. For ordinary small dinosaurs, Nobita and Shizuka were not afraid. When they met them, they were either scared away by them because they were timid, or even if they were not afraid of them, they would attack them. Nobi Daichi and Shizuka could easily get rid of the dinosaurs that attacked them. But what surprised Nobi Daichi was that they had almost penetrated 3,000 meters into the forest. But they had not seen a single large dinosaur, such as a dinosaur that was 7 or 8 meters tall and more than 10 meters long. Of course, not encountering a large dinosaur was naturally something that Nobi Daichi and his companions should be happy about. However, the doubts in Nobi Daichi's heart were something that any normal person would have. In this state, Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka walked a distance. At this time, they were less than 50 meters away from their destination. Roar. Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka were all happy that they would soon reach their destination. A huge roar came from not far behind Nobi Daichi and the other two. Hearing this roar, Nobi Daichi's face suddenly changed. Although he didn't know what exactly made this roar, he knew that the thing was very close to them. "Let's go quickly, I have a bad feeling," Nobi Daichi said to Nobita and Shizuka. Nobita and Shizuka naturally heard the loud noise coming from not far behind them. The two looked unhappy. They were about to reach their destination and thought nothing would happen. Who would have thought that an accident would suddenly happen, which made them angry and helpless? So the three of them sped up. It might be because of the roar. The surroundings of Nobita and Shizuka suddenly became uneasy. The dinosaurs that were almost invisible appeared one after another around them, and they ran forward desperately, as if something was following them. That made them feel scared. Because of the running of countless dinosaurs, The ground where Nobita and Shizuka stood was shaking. Among these desperately fleeing dinosaurs, there were carnivorous dinosaurs, herbivorous dinosaurs, and mixed herbivorous carnivorous dinosaurs. It was just that the carnivorous dinosaurs and herbivorous dinosaurs that were natural enemies at ordinary times. At this time, they did not bother about each other too much. They all ran forward desperately, fearing that they would fall into the 18th level of hell if they were a step slower. These dinosaurs, without exception, were small dinosaurs, even carnivorous dinosaurs. Nobi Daichi and Shizuka were not afraid of encountering one, even if there were more than a dozen. But there were more than a few, more than a dozen. Everywhere they looked, there were dinosaurs. Because of the trees blocking the view, Nobi Daichi could only see the dinosaurs within his range. As for the dinosaurs in other places, he was powerless. But just the dinosaurs that Nobi Daichi saw made Nobi Daichi's scalp numb. If Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka entered the plane full of dinosaurs, it would be fine if they encountered hundreds or thousands of dinosaurs. After all, not all dinosaurs hunted them, and most of the dinosaurs would stay where they were. After all, their size was too small compared to the dinosaurs. And now, Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka were certainly not hunted by these dozens or hundreds of dinosaurs. But you have to know that these dinosaurs are running at top speed now. If you hit them, it would be unimaginable. Therefore, when Nobi Daichi saw the dinosaurs coming from behind, he turned into the Emperor Man with a flash of golden light in front of the dream machine. Looking at the situation of Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka, Doraemon was originally worried. But when he saw Nobi Daichi suddenly flash a golden light and turned into the Emperor Man, Doraemon couldn't help rubbing his eyes. He felt that he must be blind. Otherwise, how could he see such a bizarre thing? But after rubbing his eyes again and again, Doraemon found that he was still seeing the same picture. Doraemon. After Nobi Daichi transformed into the Emperor Man, he grabbed Nobita with one hand and Shizuka with the other hand and climbed up the tree in front. The almost vertical tree trunk made Nobi Daichi walk on an ordinary path. On the vertical tree trunk, Nobi Daichi was almost walking on flat ground. Of course, this is an illusion. With Nobi Daichi's current strength, he can't do this. The main reason is that his speed is too fast. After borrowing a few forces from the main trunk, he brought Nobita and Shizuka, who had not yet reacted to the thick branch of the tree. This branch is nearly half a meter thick and nearly 10 meters from the ground. As long as you are not afraid of heights and don't slip, there should be no problem. So Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka are safe for the time being. Shizuka only felt that she was suddenly lifted up. Just when she wanted to struggle, she found that she had come to a branch nearly 10 meters from the ground. Turning around, she found Nobi Daichi wearing handsome Emperor armor. Her eyes couldn't help but shine with gold. I wonder how much so much gold can be sold for. On her planet, gold is a controlled material. I didn't expect that number one had unknowingly obtained so much gold and made a set of armor. Shizuka licked her dry lips unconsciously, and her heart was eager to move. Nobi Daichi, who was frightened by Shizuka's strange gaze, couldn't help but say to Shizuka, number 3, have you seen enough? Ahem. Shizuka coughed to cover up her embarrassment after hearing what Nobi Daichi said. Then she kicked Nobi Daichi. She didn't even tell him about such an important thing as finding so much gold. It was just the action of Shizuka kicking Nobi Daichi. But it made Nobi Daichi feel inexplicable, and he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Women are indeed one of the most difficult creatures to understand in the world. After Shizuka kicked Nobi Daichi for no reason, she looked at the situation below. Chapter 268 Retreat from the Battle. In the dark primeval forest, several bright lights shone through the gaps between the dense branches and leaves onto the trees, the ground, and the rocks below. On a thick branch of a tree that was at least 40 to 50 meters high, 3 figures were standing on it. These 3 people were none other than Nobi Daichi, Nobita, and Shizuka. At this time, Nobi Daichi and the other 2 were looking at the situation below with a serious face. Countless dinosaurs ran from the original place and quickly disappeared in the eyes of Nobi Daichi and the others. Under the running of a large number of dinosaurs, Nobi Daichi, Nobita, and Shizuka, who were standing on the nearly 10-meter high thick branch, could feel a slight tremor. Dazzy, what's going on? Nobita, who had recovered from his shock, asked Nobi Daichi with a trembling voice. I don't know too much. Nobi Daichi shook his head and said to Nobita, but I feel it shouldn't be that simple. Nobi Daichi and the others were only about 50 meters away from their destination. As long as they want, or as long as Nobi Daichi wants, they can reach their destination in a very short time at any time. But this is not a question of whether they want to or not, but a question of whether they can. Even if they reach their destination, they still have to face a series of problems such as collecting energy minerals. Let's not talk about this for now. At this time, there are dinosaurs all around. It is estimated that the destination they are looking for is also full of dinosaurs. It is not a wise choice to go at this time. At least we have to wait until this wave of chaos is over. This is why Nobi Daichi did not take Nobita and Shizuka to the destination, but came to the tree to observe the surrounding situation. Under the gaze of Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka, waves of dinosaurs fled desperately under their gaze. Suddenly, Nobi Daichi's pupils shrank suddenly. I saw that a tree several tens of meters high in front of them suddenly broke into several pieces from the middle upwards. The poor dinosaurs who ran a step slower or faster were all pressed down by these dozens of broken wood and could not move. It was good to be just pressed down. Some unlucky dinosaurs were even knocked unconscious or killed. It was really horrible. Oh, let me tell you something. The area where Nobi Daichi and others were located was relatively wide. Therefore, the trees that were broken into several pieces could fall to the ground and hit some dinosaurs. Of course, some broken wood did not fall down and were stuck between two trees. As the trees in front of Nobi Daichi and others broke into several pieces, the area became chaotic for a while. Large pieces of smoke and dust also flew from the ground to the air, obscuring some of the scenery. However, these are not the main points. The main point is a behemoth that appeared behind the broken tree. From the appearance, it is almost the same as the Tyrannosaurus Rex, but its height is terrifying. It is more than 30 meters high, about the height of a 10-story building. These are fine. The key point is that Nobi Daichi actually saw a hint of teasing in the eyes of the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. Nobi Daichi was really shocked. Could it be that this giant Tyrannosaurus Rex has become a spirit? Otherwise, how could a giant Tyrannosaurus Rex that appeared in front of them show a human expression? Or is this the setting of this dream world? Questions popped up in Nobita Daichi's mind one after another. Looking at the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex that appeared in front of them, Nobita Daichi instinctively wanted to take out the magic stick and transform into Digger. But when this idea came up, Nobita Daichi found that the magic stick did not appear in his hand. At this time, Nobita Daichi remembered that he could not take things out of the system space. He now only has the strength of the early stage of the mortal realm and the ability to transform into the Emperor. Nobita was already surprised by the sudden break of the tree into several pieces. Who would have thought that after a small surprise, another big surprise would appear? Nobita couldn't help but want to retreat. But as soon as he had this idea, he remembered that he was nearly 10 meters high in the air. He couldn't help but stop this self-destructive idea. Just when Nobita was panicking, his right hand suddenly touched a bulging object in his trouser pocket. Nobita instinctively took out the item in his trouser pocket and put it in front of his eyes. It was the shrinking lamp Doraemon had given him before. In Nobita's opinion, it was quite useless and one of the two props that could not make him kill all the enemies. However, at this time, Nobita no longer had the disdain he had before, but instead praised Doraemon's foresight in his heart. "Arcut, who is thinking about me in your heart? Is it Zio-me?" Doraemon muttered in front of the dream machine. As for the picture shown on the screen at this time, Nobita and Shizuka were in trouble. Doraemon was not worried about it at all. Instead, he was full of expectations in his heart because he also remembered the shrinking lamp he had given Nobita before. I didn't expect it to work so soon. Shizuka, who was standing on the left side of Nobita, was also shocked by the giant dinosaur that suddenly appeared in front of her. Although she didn't know what kind of dinosaur it was, but from the huge size and sharp and huge teeth, she could tell that this dinosaur was definitely not easy to mess with. Faced with this dilemma, there was only one word in her mind: run. After all, she had no other choice but to run. Nobi Daichi gave up taking out the magic stick from the system space, knowing that he could not beat the dinosaur. If he wanted to beat it, if it was just an ordinary Tyrannosaurus Rex that had grown bigger, he estimated that he would need the strength of the middle stage of the mortal realm to beat it. As for killing it, the strength of the middle stage of the mortal realm was not enough, and the strength of the late stage might be about the same. After all, the Tyrannosaurus Rex was more than 30 meters tall. Because of the increase in size, the power increase of the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex must be terrifying. You have to know that this is not an increase of 1 plus 1 equals 2, but a multiple or. Anyway, Nobi Daichi's power is really hard to estimate. If it is not an ordinary mutation, it will take at least the strength of the late stage of the mortal realm to defeat it, and the strength of the peak of the mortal realm to kill it. So his idea at this time is the same as Shizuka, and he is also fleeing here quickly. As for the energy ore, let's talk about it after saving my life. I hope it's not a monster like the Ultra World. Nobi Daichi prayed in his heart. If it was a monster like the one in Ultra World, he would have to be at least at the peak of mortal realm to defeat it without transformation. At that time, he was no longer afraid of nuclear weapons. It was not an exaggeration to call him a humanoid nuclear weapon. If he wanted to kill a monster, it would not work without the perfect mortal realm strength. It was not that his mortal realm peak strength was weak, but he only knew some basic attacks. He could only use his own strength. He had no attacking skills, martial arts that could increase speed, or magical powers. This also made him have a strong strength, but could not fully, or even fully exert it. Chapter 269 Big Boss. Just when Nobita and Shizuka were about to leave here, Nobita suddenly caught a glimpse of the shrinking light that Nobita had just taken out of his trouser pocket. He couldn't help but say to Nobita with his eyes brightened, "Brother, how did you get the shrinking light?" "Doraemon gave it to me, Dazzy, shouldn't you already know it?" Nobita's eyes were full of doubts. He asked Doraemon for two props, one was the air cannon and the other was the shrinking light. In Nobita's view, Nobita had no doubts about him taking out the air cannon. Why would he be confused and puzzled about him taking out the shrinking light? After taking out one prop, he took out another prop. Isn't this a normal operation? Before, the air cannon was put on Nobita's right hand, and his left hand was holding the laser gun he carried with him. As for the shrinking light, because Nobita was holding things in both hands, and he didn't need the shrinking light for the time being, Nobita put the shrinking light in his trouser pocket. If Nobita hadn't accidentally touched the bulging trouser pocket, in this situation, he could be in danger at any time. You must always be alert to the surrounding environment. I'm afraid Nobita has already forgotten that he still has the shrinking light. At this time, Nobita has already put the laser gun back into the gun bag on his waist. He holds the shrinking light in his left hand and the air cannon in his right hand. Nobita was stunned by Nobita's question. But then Nobita thought of something. After Nobita took out the air cannon, he guessed that Doraemon had met Nobita. But he didn't care too much at the time. Seeing that Nobita didn't tell him about Doraemon, nor did he say that there were other props, he directly thought that Doraemon only gave Nobita an air cannon. Nobita also only got an air cannon from Doraemon. Who would have thought? In this dangerous situation, Nobita actually gave him a surprise. Aren't you relying on your big size and strong strength? I shrink you and make you the same size as me, or even shorter than me. What else can you use to fight me? But what Nobita didn't know was that the reason why Nobita didn't tell him that Doraemon gave him the props was, it was because Nobita saw that he was not surprised at all when he took out the air cannon. He thought Doraemon had already told him about this. After all, Doraemon could communicate with him, so he could naturally communicate with Daichi. But how could Nobita know that Doraemon had never communicated with Nobi Daichi at all? Because in Doraemon's view, Nobi Daichi didn't need props at all. However, it was only after seeing Nobi Daichi show his strength that Doraemon gave up giving Nobi Daichi some props. Otherwise, Doraemon would definitely give Nobi Daichi some props. After all, he couldn't favor one over the other. So the misunderstanding between Nobi Daichi and Nobita was born. Although Nobi Daichi didn't know the ins and outs of the matter, he could vaguely guess something. But now is not the time to think about these things. Don't worry about this for now, brother. Give me the shrinking lamp, I'll go and shrink that huge Tyrannosaurus Rex. Nobi Daichi looked down at Nobita and said. Because Nobi Daichi, who transformed into Emperor Man, was almost as tall as an adult. So he had to lower his head when talking to Nobita or Shizuka. Oh, okay. Nobita was stunned when he heard what Nobi Daichi said, but he reacted immediately. He was still thinking about shrinking the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex by himself. It was just that Nobi Daichi reminded him like this. He also thought that he could not get in front of the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. The only ones who could complete this task were Nobi Daichi and Shizuka. If you have to choose between Nobi Daichi and Shizuka, Nobi Daichi is undoubtedly the better choice. After thinking about this, Nobita no longer hesitated and handed the shrinking lamp to Nobi Daichi without saying a word. As for Shizuka next to the two, she was already dumbfounded. Listening to the words of Nobi Daichi and Nobita, question marks popped up in her mind. Now Shizuka's mind has become a mess. Hey, that. Shizuka was about to say something when Nobi Daichi had already jumped down from a branch nearly 10 meters high. Boom. After Nobi Daichi jumped down from the tree, he smashed a big hole in the ground and created a lot of dust. At this time, there was no dinosaur below them. Those who should have run had already run, and those who didn't run were blocked by the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. The giant Tyrannosaurus Rex ignored Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka and the others. Instead, it turned around and played with the other dinosaurs who saw it panicking and turned sideways towards Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka. Even though Nobi Daichi and the others stood on a branch nearly 10 meters high, they looked very attractive. But their bodies were still too small. In the eyes of the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex, they were like mosquitoes and flies and could not attract its attention at all. Looking at this situation, Nobi Daichi felt relieved. This is easy to deal with. If the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex noticed them, he might have to work hard to shrink it. Now the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex didn't pay too much attention to them, which made it much easier. As long as he got close to the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex and turned on the shrinking light, the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex would be shrunk. Their crisis would be resolved. The premise is, if they didn't encounter other dinosaurs. At this time, Nobi Daichi also understood why he hadn't encountered a large dinosaur along the way. It turned out that there was a large dinosaur here, and it was a carnivorous Tyrannosaurus Rex that was the best among the large dinosaurs. That's fine, but it's a super boss that's more than 30 meters tall. How dare other dinosaurs come here? Even other types of dinosaurs of the same size as this giant Tyrannosaurus Rex would probably stay away from here because of fear of it. With a few leaps, Nobi Daichi had come to a place less than 10 meters away from the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. At this time, the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex, which was bullying other dinosaurs with its head down, suddenly raised its head and turned to look at Nobi Daichi. Yes, Nobi Daichi was sure that the giant Tyrannosaurus was looking at him. Because Nobi Daichi saw anger in the eyes of the giant Tyrannosaurus. In the eyes of the giant Tyrannosaurus, this was a provocation from the ant Nobi Daichi. Which of the other dinosaurs would not surrender obediently when seeing him? Fear? Among them, there were 7 or 8 meters tall, more than 10 meters tall, more than 20 meters tall, and even 30 meters tall. But they all felt fear and even terror of him. And how dare Nobi Daichi come in front of him without his permission? The crime is unforgivable. The crime should be punished by death. Therefore, the giant Tyrannosaurus directly swung its tail to hit Nobi Daichi, who had transformed into Emperor Man. Nobi Daichi naturally dodged urgently. Chapter 270 different. Nobi Daichi was also startled by the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex suddenly turning its head to look at him. Looking at the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex, Nobi Daichi smiled awkwardly at it and waved at it and said, "Hello, big guy." In Nobi Daichi's opinion, this giant Tyrannosaurus Rex is so smart, maybe it also understands human nature and can understand what he says. Then, wouldn't it be nice to turn hostility into friendship? But imagination is beautiful, reality is cruel. The giant Tyrannosaurus Rex is obviously not interested in Nobi Daichi's desire to communicate with it. It swung its tail and lashed at Nobi Daichi. Nobi Daichi's eyelids twitched when he saw this, and he moved away from the spot at a very fast speed. The giant Tyrannosaurus Rex's huge tail lashed at the place where Nobi Daichi had just been. Not only did it splash dust all over the sky, but also many cracks appeared on the ground. It was extremely terrifying. Nobita and Shizuka, who were far away on the thick branches of the tree, could feel that the tree they were in was shaking. They hurriedly adjusted themselves and did not fall off the branches. After the adjustment, Nobita looked around with some concern, intending to find Nobita Daichi. At this time, Nobita Daichi had already jumped and flashed away from the attack range of the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex's tail. On a towering tree nearly 100 meters high, Nobita Daichi stood at a height of 50 to 60 meters above the tree, looking at the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex below that had swung its tail more than once. He felt a little difficult. The perception of this giant Tyrannosaurus Rex was much stronger than he had imagined. But it was only a little difficult, and it was almost not difficult for him to solve it. The reason why he ran here was to check on the safety of Nobita and Shizuka. As for why he didn't go back to Nobita and Shizuka, isn't it obvious that I have friends here? Come and eat me. That's what a fool would do. After using the giant tail to swing several times in a row at the place where Nobita Daichi had just stood, the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex suddenly stopped. Seeing this, Nobi Daichi was startled by the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. After the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex stopped waving its tail, it just stood there. Just when Nobi Daichi thought that the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex would have to stand there for a while, and he took the opportunity to shrink the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. The giant Tyrannosaurus Rex suddenly turned its head and looked at the place where Nobi Daichi was standing with a fierce look. This not only scared Nobi Daichi, but also disrupted Nobi Daichi's original sneaky plan. Is this Tyrannosaurus Rex a reincarnation of a dog? Its nose is so sharp. Otherwise, how could it find me so quickly? Nobi Daichi cursed in his heart, but his movements were not slow. With the help of the crisscrossing branches, when the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex looked at him, when the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex had discovered him, he quickly left the original tree. After stopping on another tree that he thought was safe, Nobi Daichi turned around and looked at where he was originally. Then a scene that made Nobi Daichi feel dreamlike magical appeared. A ball of fire suddenly spurted out from the mouth of the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex and landed where Nobi Daichi was standing just now. Nobi Daichi, if you didn't look really different, I would have thought you were a larger version of Charizard. After complaining in his heart, Nobi Daichi stopped playing and didn't want to have any accidents while playing. However, Nobi Daichi also remembered the Charmander in his system space. No, it should be said that it was Charmeleon. After waking up from the dream, he planned to release Charmeleon from the luxury ball to see, because he hadn't seen Charmeleon for a long time. He didn't know how Charmeleon lived in the luxury ball, but Nobi Daichi was not very worried about this, because there was 3D virtual technology in the luxury ball, which was also discovered by Nobi Daichi later. During the time when Nobi Daichi didn't release Charmeleon, Nobi Daichi's 3D virtual character had always been with Charmeleon. Therefore, even if Nobi Daichi did not accompany Charmeleon all the time, his relationship with Charmeleon would not be alienated. On the contrary, Charmeleon's relationship with him is growing day by day. After the flames spewed by the giant Tyrannosaurus fell on the tree, it immediately ignited the huge tree, and the scorching flames were still spreading rapidly. Seeing this, Nobi Daichi's eyelids couldn't help but jump wildly. He had already thought of the scene of the entire primeval forest turning into a sea of fire. The endless primeval forest turned into a forest of flames. Even tens, hundreds, and hundreds of meters in the sky, you can feel the high temperature generated by the burning trees. Once such a large forest is filled with flames and all the trees are burned, the carbon dioxide produced must be terrible. This Jurassic planet may become unsuitable for human survival, because carbon dioxide has increased greatly and oxygen has decreased greatly. But a scene that made Nobi Daichi's eyelids jump again appeared. The giant Tyrannosaurus Rex seemed to find that his flames did not hurt Nobi Daichi. Open your mouth. The flames that had begun to spread through the trees were swallowed back into the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex's mouth. Only the charred trees that had just been burned by the flames were left. Seeing this scene, not only Nobi Daichi was shocked, but also Nobita and Shizuka. The fire that was sprayed out can also be recovered? Water can be collected. Nobi Daichi finally understood. Why can this giant Tyrannosaurus Rex spit fire? But this primeval forest was not burned out by the flames. However, Nobi Daichi stopped thinking about it immediately. After a few leaps, he came to the left foot of the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. With the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex's perception ability like a dog's nose, it naturally discovered Nobi Daichi's arrival. Being teased by Nobi Daichi one after another, the angry heart became even more angry. He raised his left foot and stepped on Nobi Daichi. It must work. Nobi Daichi turned on the shrinking light, shone it on the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex, and prayed in his heart. This giant Tyrannosaurus Rex has gone beyond Nobi Daichi's imagination, and the difference between it and the ordinary enlarged dinosaur is already very big. So Nobi Daichi didn't know whether this giant Tyrannosaurus Rex could still be affected by the shrinking light. However, the scene that appeared in the next second made Nobi Daichi feel relieved. The giant Tyrannosaurus Rex illuminated by the shrinking light was shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon it shrank to the height of Nobi Daichi's waist. Giant Tyrannosaurus Rex, roar. Although the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex was shrunk by Nobi Daichi with the shrinking light, its ferocity did not decrease. It roared at Nobi Daichi and sprayed a ball of flame at Nobi Daichi at the same time. However, the tiny ball of flame sprayed on the armor of Nobi Daichi, who transformed into Emperor Man. It was worse than tickling, so Nobi Daichi didn't feel anything at all. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271 00 Giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. Young man, you have no moral principles. It's true that the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex is still cute after being shrunk. It's so cute that Nobi Daichi couldn't help but rub the head of the shrunk Tyrannosaurus Rex. Tyrannosaurus Rex, as one of the overlords of many places, how could the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex tolerate Nobi Daichi's pat on the head to kill? Therefore, the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex became angry all of a sudden. After spraying several balls of fire at Nobi Daichi in succession, seeing that there was little effect, the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex changed its strategy and used its head as a spear to hit Nobi Daichi. Whether it works or not, it has to try it. Only in this way can it vent some of its anger. Then, the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex collided with Nobi Daichi, who had transformed into Emperor Man. Bang! Nobi Daichi was fine, but the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex fell to the ground. At the same time, the giant Tyrannosaurus felt uncomfortable in his head, and he could see several stars. Nobi Daichi, looking at the silly and cute behavior of the giant Tyrannosaurus, Nobi Daichi was also quite speechless. Seeing the giant Tyrannosaurus felt dizzy because of the overestimation of its own ability behavior, sitting on the ground and unable to get up temporarily. Nobi Daichi decided to leave here temporarily. In a flash, Nobi Daichi has come to the thick branch where Nobita and Shizuka are. Number 1. After watching Nobi Daichi come back, Nobita and Shizuka both wanted to say something to Nobi Daichi, but Nobi Daichi didn't care about these. After holding Nobita and Shizuka with his two hands, he came to the side of the smaller giant Tyrannosaurus again. Is this the mighty and domineering Tyrannosaurus Rex just now? Nobita couldn't help asking, looking at the cute Tyrannosaurus Rex sitting on the ground in a daze. His words were full of disbelief. Yeah. Shizuka also agreed with Nobita's words and nodded repeatedly. Of course. Nobita Daichi understood why Nobita and Shizuka asked such questions. You know, just now after the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex shrunk, he himself couldn't help but be surprised and doubtful. Hearing Nobita Daichi's affirmative words, Nobita and Shizuka had to believe it. Even if they didn't believe it, then what should we do next? Nobita asked the next question. Well, Nobita Daichi held his chin with his right hand and thought. At this time, Nobita Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka could not see a dinosaur within a radius of dozens of meters. It might be because of the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. Even though the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex had been shrunk by Nobita Daichi with the shrinking light, but its powerful breath could still scare most of the dinosaurs. This gave Nobita and his friends an extra umbrella of protection. The giant Tyrannosaurus Rex had already woken up from the dizzy state just now. After seeing two disgusting auras suddenly appear around him, he bared his teeth. Judging from the current body shape of the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex, it not only had no deterrent power, but also made it look even cuter. Nobita couldn't help but stretch out his claws towards the head of the little Tyrannosaurus Rex. The little Tyrannosaurus Rex didn't seem to expect that the short ant in front of it would dare to be so disrespectful to it. It was not on guard at all, and Nobita touched its head smoothly. "It feels good to touch it," Nobita muttered. Nobita, with Nobita's hearing at this time, how could he not hear Nobita's muttering? Therefore, he heard Nobita's words. Nobita tried hard to hold back his laughter, in case Nobita and Shizuka thought he was a psychopath. But in the end, Nobi Daichi couldn't hold back, and laughed out loud. Ha 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 here after Nobita reluctantly stretched out his hand, the little Tyrannosaurus finally reacted. Roar. He blew a ball of fire at Nobita. Nobita never thought that this cute little Tyrannosaurus would actually spit fire at him. So after seeing the little Tyrannosaurus spitting fire at him, he was frightened and stunned for a moment. Although the fire spewed by the little Tyrannosaurus did not hurt Nobi Daichi, who transformed into Emperor Man. But it was different for Nobita. Judging from the little Tyrannosaurus spraying fire at Nobita's face, even if it would not disfigure him, he would be burned. Nobita Daichi knew this situation, and did not make a move, because Shizuka, who was standing next to Nobita, pushed Nobita to the ground with a push. The ball of fire spewed by the little Tyrannosaurus narrowly brushed Nobita's hair. But even so, the top layer of Nobita's hair was burnt. It looked like Nobita had a perm for free. Nobita, who was pushed to the ground by Shizuka, was really scared. Touching his burned hair, Nobita conceited and looked bitter. But when he thought that it was just a dream and there was nothing wrong with his hair in reality, Nobita stopped looking bitter and stood up from the ground. But at this time, Nobita did not dare to stretch out his claws to the little Tyrannosaurus Rex unscrupulously. He was a little afraid of the little Tyrannosaurus Rex and even hid behind Shizuka. Seeing Nobita, who was frightened by his kingly aura and dared not disrespect him anymore, and even felt afraid of him, the little Tyrannosaurus Rex roared happily, looked up at the sky, and looked complacent. Seeing the little Tyrannosaurus Rex's arrogant look, Nobi Daichi gave it a slap in the face to represent his love without saying a word. The little Tyrannosaurus Rex was not happy. He turned around and grinned at Nobi Daichi for a while. But that was all. The little Tyrannosaurus Rex was not stupid. Now he looked short. It was a pipe dream to deal with Nobi Daichi, and there was no way at all. And the little Tyrannosaurus Rex was also afraid that Nobi Daichi had shrunk him. Although this trace of fear was hidden deep in his heart, now he could only show off to Nobita and Shizuka. So the scene at this time was that Nobita Daichi, who had transformed into Emperor Man, was holding his chin and thinking about the next plan. The little Tyrannosaurus Rex grinned at Nobita and Shizuka, who were standing together, waving his strong front paws. Finally, Nobita Daichi also thought of the next plan. Ignoring the little Tyrannosaurus Rex, who was still showing off, Nobita Daichi walked to the side of Nobita and Shizuka. Then Nobita Daichi and the other two gathered together and talked about something. The little Tyrannosaurus Rex stood aside. "What? You ask it why it doesn't leave here? How can it leave without finding a way to restore itself to its original state? How dare it leave? If it goes out in this state, if it encounters its own enemy, it will be like seeking death." Chapter 272 repeated. Looking at Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka gathered together to discuss. The little Tyrannosaurus couldn't help but feel itchy. It also wanted to join in the fun. However, as the overlord among countless dinosaurs, it thought it couldn't do so. It would lower its own status. So, the next second, it smells so good. Looking at the little Tyrannosaurus Rex coming over, Nobi Daichi didn't drive it away. Because he had already told Nobita and Shizuka the most important things. Even if the little Tyrannosaurus Rex could understand what they said, it wouldn't matter if Nobita and Shizuka heard everything they said. As for the most important things that Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka said, it was actually only relative. In summary, it wasn't a big deal. A few minutes later, the conversation between Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka was over. Turning around, Nobi Daichi looked at the little Tyrannosaurus Rex with a weird look. The malicious smile made the little Tyrannosaurus Rex tremble in his heart and involuntarily took a few steps back. But the little Tyrannosaurus Rex reacted immediately and felt angry. It was actually frightened by Nobi Daichi's weird smile. This was a great shame for it. Stopping its retreat, the little Tyrannosaurus Rex kicked at Nobi Daichi with a fierce look. After spurting out a small ball of flame that had no effect on Nobi Daichi from its mouth, the little Tyrannosaurus Rex rushed in front of Nobi Daichi. Waving its sharp, usually invincible front claws, it grabbed Nobi Daichi, who had transformed into Emperor Man. Nobi Daichi looked at the little Tyrannosaurus Rex with disdain and pushed the little Tyrannosaurus Rex to the ground with his hand. Little Tyrannosaurus Rex. After getting up from the ground, the little Tyrannosaurus Rex was still very dissatisfied with Nobi Daichi's disrespectful behavior. Therefore, it rushed to Nobi Daichi again and repeated the behavior just now. After 3 ineffective behaviors, the little Tyrannosaurus Rex sat on the ground with a frustrated look on his face. Nobi Daichi, ahem, you should be able to understand what I'm saying, right? Nobi Daichi said to the little Tyrannosaurus Rex sitting on the ground. The little Tyrannosaurus Rex was still very depressed and nodded with a depressed face. Nobi Daichi couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief as long as he could understand what he said. How about this? I'll make a deal with you. Sitting on the ground, the little Tyrannosaurus Rex, who was originally depressed, became alert after hearing what Nobi Daichi said. Nobi Daichi naturally noticed the change in the mood of the little Tyrannosaurus Rex and tried to comfort it. Don't worry, this deal is good for you and me. The little Tyrannosaurus Rex became more alert after hearing Nobi Daichi's comforting words. This didn't sound like a good deal. How could he be so good to him? Is it a deal of selling himself? Want to use his excellent genes to breed better offspring? No, he would never agree to such a deal. If he was forced, he would never agree to it even if he died. Seeing the little Tyrannosaurus Rex, who was ready to die after hearing his words of comfort, Nobi Daichi couldn't help but wonder if he had said something wrong just now. After repeating what he had just said to the little Tyrannosaurus Rex in his mind, he found that there was nothing wrong. After thinking for a while, he found that he really couldn't figure it out. Nobi Daichi no longer struggled with this matter and then said to the little Tyrannosaurus Rex, the deal is, you protect us for a period of time, and during this period of time, we will restore you to your original appearance. Hearing this, the little Tyrannosaurus Rex's eyes lit up, but its inner vigilance did not decrease. But during this period of time of protecting us, the time you can restore to your original appearance is limited. When we stay here for a long enough time, when we leave here, we will let you permanently restore to your original appearance. What do you think of this deal? Roar. The little Tyrannosaurus Rex roared in a low voice and nodded repeatedly to agree with what Nobi Daichi said. As long as it can be restored to its original appearance, it can do whatever it wants. At the same time, the little Tyrannosaurus Rex changed its previous vigilance and showed a kind expression. But this is just what the little Tyrannosaurus Rex showed on his face, and it is unknown what it really thinks in its heart. Seeing the little Tyrannosaurus Rex agree, Nobi Daichi also smiled. Regardless of whether the little Tyrannosaurus Rex really agreed or not, he has a way to deal with it. This is also part of the plan he discussed with Nobita and Shizuka. If you don't use such a good helper, you will be sorry for yourself. Thinking of this, looking at the little Tyrannosaurus Rex's expectant and kind expression, Nobi Daichi also smiled at the little Tyrannosaurus Rex to express his kindness to it. Then Nobi Daichi turned on the shrinking light and let the light of the shrinking light shine on the little Tyrannosaurus Rex. So the little Tyrannosaurus Rex grew larger at a speed visible to the naked eye under the gaze of Nobita Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka. A few seconds later, the little Tyrannosaurus Rex once again returned to its original mighty and invincible image. Looking at the ants standing under its feet, the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex almost didn't hesitate and stepped directly on Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka. What? You say it doesn't keep its word? Can it say that it was walking on its own and accidentally stepped on Nobi Daichi and the others? Although no one would believe this. But it doesn't matter to other dinosaurs whether they believe it or not. Believe it or not, if you don't believe it, come to my stomach for a while. I promise you will believe it, even if you don't believe it. The giant Tyrannosaurus Rex thought to himself. looking at the huge foot stepping towards him. Nobi Daichi was not surprised, because he had expected it. He grabbed Nobita and Shizuka at a speed invisible to the naked eye, and brought them to a place where the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex could not attack for the time being. Nobi Daichi returned to the side of the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex again. At this time, the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex's foot had not completely landed on the ground, and it was still a little distance from the ground. Go around behind the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. Nobi Daichi turned on the shrinking light again. Then, with the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex looking confused, the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex turned into a small Tyrannosaurus Rex again. From being mighty and domineering, it turned into petite and cute again. Giant Tyrannosaurus Rex, I knew I shouldn't have believed what you, a young man with no martial ethics, said. After you restored me to my original appearance, I should have just run away, but I really can't stand you being so mean. And the small Tyrannosaurus Rex grabbed its head with its front paws, as if there were countless fleas living on its head. Cough. Looking at the small Tyrannosaurus Rex who seemed to be in a state of insanity, Nobi Daichi coughed at the right time to commit suicide. Chapter 273 Colorful Dragon. The little Tyrannosaurus Rex, who was scratching his head with his front paws, heard Nobi Daichi's cough. He raised his head stiffly little by little, and looked at Nobi Daichi. At the same time, he showed a smile that he thought was good looking. But Nobi Daichi looked at the awkward smile of the little Tyrannosaurus Rex, and felt uncomfortable, no matter how he looked at it. So he walked in front of the little Tyrannosaurus Rex and gently patted the little Tyrannosaurus Rex on the face with his hand. Paw. 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 The little Tyrannosaurus Rex showed a smile that was uglier than crying, but he did not dare to escape from Nobi Daichi's clutches. He stretched out his hand that had patted the little Tyrannosaurus Rex's face. Nobi Daichi left the place with a look of disgust and picked a leaf in the blink of an eye. Then Nobi Daichi returned to the little Tyrannosaurus Rex again. In front of the little Tyrannosaurus Rex, he wiped the hand that had touched it with a leaf and then threw the leaf on the ground. Little Tyrannosaurus Rex, I know I'm not a human, but I also know that you are a real dog. Don't think about it. I won't let you return to your original appearance. Looking at the expectant expression on the face of the little Tyrannosaurus, Nobi Daichi said with a huff. Then Nobi Daichi disappeared from the spot. When Nobi Daichi appeared in front of the little Tyrannosaurus again, Nobita and Shizuka had already appeared in front of the little Tyrannosaurus. The Emperor Armor turned into golden light spots all over the sky and dissipated from Nobi Daichi's body. Nobi Daichi lifted the Emperor Man transformation. Although it is said that in this environment, it is the best and most correct choice to keep the Emperor Man transformation. But after the transformation into Emperor Man, Nobi Daichi and Nobita and Shizuka were very awkward when getting along. But in fact, whether to keep the Emperor Man transformation state, it doesn't really affect Nobi Daichi. Because the transformation into Emperor Man is just a moment for Nobi Daichi now. Little Tyrannosaurus? He was such a big person just now. How come he has become so small now, almost as tall as me? The little Tyrannosaurus thought so. Then a ball of fire spurted out of its mouth and sprayed towards Nobi Daichi. Nobi Daichi moved to the side of the little Tyrannosaurus. He grabbed one of the little Tyrannosaurus's front paws. Bang! The little Tyrannosaurus was thrown directly onto a big tree by Nobi Daichi. The little Tyrannosaurus entered the state of circles under his eyes again. But this time, the little Tyrannosaurus woke up quickly. Then he looked at Nobi Daichi with a resentful look, which made Nobi Daichi's body covered with goosebumps. Cough. Nobi Daichi coughed lightly, to cover up his embarrassment. No matter the little Tyrannosaurus, Nobi Daichi turned to Nobita and Shizuka and said, "Let's go." But, Daichi, didn't you say you would take it with you, and let it help us? Nobita looked at Nobita in confusion. I thought so, but it doesn't want to. Nobita Daichi spread his hands to Nobita, with a look of helplessness. Well then, Nobita said with regret. If they could let the little Tyrannosaurus follow them, they would definitely be able to reduce a lot of trouble. They would also be safer. As for Shizuka, she had not spoken all the time, because she didn't know what to say. The current situation had exceeded her expectations, and she was shocked and confused. How could she not know that her two companions were hiding so many secrets that she didn't know? So now Shizuka has been staring at the little Tyrannosaurus and Nobi Daichi in a daze. No 3, lead the way. Looking at the stunned Shizuka, Nobi Daichi stretched out his hand and waved it in front of Shizuka. Oh, I see. Shizuka was still not very sober, but she also understood what Nobi Daichi said. Picking up the instrument that can detect energy ores in her hand, Shizuka checked it and walked in one direction. Nobi Daichi and Nobita naturally followed Shizuka closely. The little Tyrannosaurus looked at Nobi Daichi and the other two who had walked more than 10 meters, hesitated for a while, and chose to follow. Nobi Daichi noticed that the little Tyrannosaurus Rex was following him, and a smile appeared on his face. However, this smile was fleeting. Following behind Shizuka, Nobi Daichi, Nobita, and the little Tyrannosaurus Rex arrived at their destination. A relatively spacious place that was higher than the ground. After arriving at the destination, even Nobi Daichi couldn't help but feel a little shocked by the beautiful scenery in front of him. In the dark forest, in the open space in front of a big tree, energy ores emitting colorful light were scattered all over the place. Just when Nobita and Nobi Daichi were shocked by this, a scene that shocked them even more appeared. An oriental 7-colored dragon, which was almost entirely composed of energy ores, suddenly emerged from the energy ores. It turned out that the color of the 7-colored dragon was similar to the energy ores scattered on the ground. So Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka didn't notice the sudden appearance of the 7-colored dragon at the first time. Outside, in front of the dream machine, Doraemon looked at the sudden appearance of the oriental 7-colored dragon in surprise. His eyes widened. What's going on? Doraemon, with an incredulous look on his face, took the detailed text description on the Jurassic Planet tape and found that there was no introduction to the 7-colored dragon. So what is going on? Doraemon was very worried because he didn't know whether the sudden appearance of the 7-colored dragon was good or bad for Nobita and Nobita. So Doraemon wanted to pause this dream first and then wake up Nobita and Nobita. But when Doraemon pressed the pause button on the dream machine, he found that the dream was still continuing. The pause button failed. Try the dialogue button again. As expected, it also failed. Seeing this situation, Doraemon, who was already very anxious, became even more anxious. He hurriedly stood up from the tatami and walked to the bed of Nobita and Nobita and said anxiously to Nobita and Nobita, "Nobita, Daichi, Nobita, Daichi." Doraemon called Nobita and Nobita several times in a row, but Nobita and Nobita showed no signs of waking up. Doraemon had no choice but to sit in front of the dream machine again and look at the current situation of Nobita and Nobita. Nobita and Shizuka were all shocked by the sudden appearance of the 7-colored dragon. When the colorful dragon appeared, the little Tyrannosaurus Rex felt a strong dragon pressure. This strong dragon pressure made the little Tyrannosaurus Rex almost breathless. At the same time, a trace of incredible and deep fear appeared in the eyes of the little Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is a fear from the depths of the soul, and it cannot be faked. It is also for this reason. The dragon pressure emitted by the colorful dragon made the little Tyrannosaurus Rex unable to resist at all, and had no intention to resist. Chapter 274 Hidden Benefits. What's going on? Isn't this the Jurassic Planet? How come an eastern dragon suddenly appeared? Nobi Daichi's nerves were tense, and he looked up cautiously at the eastern colorful dragon that suddenly appeared. According to Nobi Daichi's memory, the eastern dragon seemed to have appeared in the Doraemon Extra episode, and it seemed to be in a magical zoo. But the dragon that appeared in the magical zoo was not colorful. However, when Nobi Daichi thought that this was just a dream, he felt that the sudden appearance of the colorful dragon was not something that was unacceptable. After flying up from the colorful energy ore, the colorful dragon just looked at Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka and his group quietly. The eyes of the colorful dragon were the same color as its body, and people could not see its eyes without paying attention. Nobi Daichi and his companions stood on the edge of the energy ore, and the colorful dragon floated on the energy ore, and looked at them. The scene was deadlocked for a while. The next second, in the astonished eyes of Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka, the colorful dragon suddenly rushed towards him. Then it got into his mind. Nobi Daichi was shocked. But the next second, the system's voice sounded, which calmed Nobi Daichi's heart a little. Ding, the host activated the hidden benefits of this mission. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the original power of the Jurassic planet Dream World. In the future, the host can enter this world consciously or physically at any time. In this dream world, the host can start the cultivation mode. However, because the host has not yet completely refined the original power of this dream world, so the host cannot be omnipotent for this dream world. I hope the host will work hard. Nobi Daichi felt it, and sure enough, he could feel a ball of colorful light in his sea of consciousness. This is actually the original power of the dream world. Although it is a bit strange to say this, the sea of consciousness of the dream world. But why did it choose itself? There should be Nobita next to him. And even Shizuka. After such a series of reminders from the system, Nobi Daichi also understood that this world might not be as simple as a simple dream world. It might be similar to the dream world of the three swordsmen of fantasy. As for whether other dream worlds have the power of origin, Nobi Daichi doesn't know, but it is estimated that there is no power. If every dream world has the power of the world's origin, then wouldn't he be able to become stronger in a very short time? Nobi Daichi can feel the energy contained in the ball of colorful light in his mind. After refining this ball of colorful light, not only can he completely control this dream world, but he can also become the supreme creator god of this dream world. His strength will also be greatly improved. What if he keeps finding the power of the origin of the dream world to refine it? However, Nobi Daichi also knows that this is just his fantasy. Let's not talk about whether he can find the power of the origin of the world in other dream worlds. Even if he can find it, will he have the same luck as this time? This time, the power of the origin of the world seems to have a favorable impression of him, and he was subdued by him directly when he was caught off guard. The origin power of other dream worlds is not certain. If someone has bad intentions towards him, it would be a loss. In addition to controlling this dream world, he actually obtained the power to practice in the dream world. This is what makes Nobi Daichi even happier. Refining the 7-color origin power can only greatly improve his strength in a short period of time. Of course, this improvement in strength is permanent. But it is still incomparable to being able to practice permanently in the dream world. After all, who knows how long he will stay in the Doraemon world? You know, not being able to practice in this world has always been a pain in Nobi Daichi's heart. After all, he has very little time for class every day now, but even if he has more, it doesn't matter, because his learning ability has been greatly improved. He can memorize what the teacher says without listening to it, and reading the textbook himself. This makes him really a torment during class time. After all, he can't do other things during class time. This makes him really have a lot of free time. Use all this free time to play. It's not impossible, but no matter what game it is, there will always be a time when you get tired of playing. But it is different to improve strength through cultivation. When practicing, you can feel the improvement of your own strength at all times. Even if it is just a little bit, you can still feel it. The pleasure of cultivation is simply beyond words. It is the joy of being on the top of a mountain at all times. Ahem, I'm thinking too much. Nobita and Shizuka next to Nobita Daichi just stared blankly at the colorful dragon entering Nobita Daichi's mind. For a long time, they were unable to recover from this incredible thing. The little Tyrannosaurus Rex was arrogant, no matter who he looked at before. The arrogant eyes also changed when he looked at Nobita Daichi at this time. In addition to the incredible and curious eyes, there was also a trace of undetectable respect. Hey. Nobita Daichi walked in front of Nobita and Shizuka, and called Nobita and Shizuka several times. Nobita and Shizuka woke up from the shock. Daisy, are you okay? Nobita asked Nobita Daichi anxiously. Shizuka also looked at Nobi Daichi nervously. I'm fine. Nobi Daichi smiled. That's good. Nobita let out a long breath. He was really afraid that Nobi Daichi would have an accident. Even when Nobi Daichi fought the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex before, he was not so anxious. After all, when fighting the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex, he knew that Nobi Daichi had a shrinking light. He still had some confidence. And Nobita had no idea what happened just now. Looking at Nobita Daichi, although Nobita still had some faint worries, he didn't dwell on this matter anymore. Okay, since there's nothing to do, let's quickly collect some energy ore and go back to the spaceship. Nobita Daichi said to Nobita and Shizuka. Yeah. Nobita and Shizuka both nodded in agreement. But Nobita and Nobi Daichi did not move. Shizuka walked into the range of energy, or under the gaze of the two. After Shizuka walked into the colorful energy or area, she took out a cylindrical barrel about 10 centimeters long from her waist. Then she placed the barrel steadily on the ground. After Shizuka placed the barrel on the ground, she pressed a small button on the barrel. The barrel suddenly grew larger and became the size of a normal iron barrel. Chapter 275 Blue Pterosaur. After the cylindrical barrel suddenly became larger, Shizuka pressed a button on the upper surface of the cylindrical barrel. The upper surface of the cylindrical barrel suddenly split in the middle, revealing the empty space inside the cylindrical barrel. After completing this series of preparations, Shizuka turned to Nobi Daichi and Nobita and said, "Okay, you can come and help." Nobi Daichi walked forward and glanced at the space inside the cylindrical barrel. He found that it was the space of an ordinary cylindrical iron tube. He couldn't help but be curious. Can the energy, or in such a small iron barrel, support the various high consumption of the spacecraft? However, Nobi Daichi was very rational and did not ask. Instead, he followed Nobita to pick up the energy, or on the ground. The little Tyrannosaurus Rex looked at them with complicated eyes outside the energy ore area. After a while, the energy ore needed for the cylindrical barrel was collected by Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka. Outside, in front of the dream machine, Doraemon has woken up from the previous 7-colored dragon incident. After waking up, he directly pressed the pause button on the dream machine. In Doraemon's view, the previous dream machine malfunctioned because of the 7-colored dragon, and now the 7-colored dragon has disappeared. Then the dream machine should be able to continue to be used normally. But the scene that happened now made him a little overwhelmed for a moment. The dream machine still can't be used normally. He pressed the dialogue button again. In the Jurassic Dream world, a few hundred meters above Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka, a square space opening suddenly appeared here. Through the dense jungle, Doraemon was relieved to see Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka picking up energy ore below. But, the next second, Doraemon's face suddenly changed, and he closed the dialogue box at lightning speed. The dialogue box flashed and disappeared in the air. After the dialogue box disappeared, a giant creature with a blue body and wingspan of 30 or 40 meters, the blue pterosaur. Suddenly, it flew past the place where the dialogue box disappeared. Because it did not catch its prey, the blue pterosaur let out an angry cry. Although the blue pterosaur did not catch Doraemon, it did not leave here. Instead, it hovered in the sky. With its sharp eyes, it saw Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka, who had already picked up the energy ore. Oh, there is also a small dinosaur that is not worth mentioning to outsiders. If the blue pterosaur saw the original appearance of the small dinosaur, it might not think so. After all, the original appearance of the small Tyrannosaurus Rex is a rival to the blue pterosaur. The blue pterosaur is one of the overlords of the vast sky. The giant Tyrannosaurus Rex is one of the overlords of the boundless land. As overlords, they are all existences that countless of their kind look up to. But the situation at this time seems to be very unfriendly to the small Tyrannosaurus Rex. After the cylindrical iron barrel is filled with energy ore, Shizuka walked forward and pressed 2 buttons in succession, and the cylindrical iron barrel returned to its original shape. Then Shizuka put the shrunken cylindrical barrel back to her waist. "Let's go, number 1, number 2. Shizuka said to Nobi Daichi and Nobita, who were watching her. So under the gaze of the little Tyrannosaurus Rex, Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka walked past it without stopping. What can the little Tyrannosaurus Rex do? It can only follow it. After all, it has not found a way to restore itself to its original state. But before Nobi Daichi and his group took a few steps, Nobi Daichi suddenly pounced on Nobita and Shizuka. The little Tyrannosaurus Rex also changed its expression, as if facing a great enemy. Like Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka, it pounced to the side. The next second, a flash of lightning with a destructive aura hit the place where Nobi Daichi and his group had just stood. A deep pit with an invisible bottom was blasted out. The land around the deep pit also turned black all of a sudden. The moment Nobi Daichi fell to the ground, he completed the Emperor Man transformation. At the same time, a colorful light suddenly appeared, covering Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka. Nobi Daichi, Nobita and Shizuka were not injured by the sudden lightning. As for the condition of the little Tyrannosaurus Rex, Nobi Daichi was a little suspicious. It might be because the little Tyrannosaurus Rex was thick skin and flesh. The sudden lightning did not cause any major harm to the little Tyrannosaurus Rex, but the skin became a little darker. Standing up from the ground, Nobi Daichi looked up at the sky, searching for his target. He knew that this was definitely not a natural phenomenon, because there were no dark clouds above the planet at this time, and there was no natural environment for lightning to appear. His eyes quickly scanned the sky, and soon Nobi Daichi found his target himself. A touch of blue light flashed from time to time in the gaps between the leaves and the sky. When Nobita and Shizuka were suddenly pounced on by Nobi Daichi, their eyes were still full of confusion. When the two stood up and looked at the horrible marks on the ground, they understood why Nobi Daichi did that just now. At the same time, they were also very scared. If Nobi Daichi, no one, was a step slower, the consequences for them. But what they didn't know was that it was actually the colorful light that protected them. It was just because they couldn't see it, so they attributed the credit for protecting them to Nobi Daichi, and the colorful light was only visible to Nobi Daichi himself. Pop pop pop. The little Tyrannosaurus Rex stood up from the ground and spit out the sand in his mouth. Like Nobi Daichi, the little Tyrannosaurus Rex also looked up at the sky. When the lightning suddenly appeared just now, the little Tyrannosaurus Rex knew who attacked him. One of the enemies he hated very much, Ernst. However, although he hated Ernst very much, the little Tyrannosaurus Rex became more serious than ever before. Even more serious than when facing Nobi Daichi. Daichi Nobi, who noticed this situation, was also startled. This was the first time he saw the little Tyrannosaurus Rex show such a serious expression. Of course, he couldn't understand the facial expression of the little Tyrannosaurus Rex, but he could feel the state and emotion of the little Tyrannosaurus Rex at this time. Judging from the seriousness of the little Tyrannosaurus Rex at this time, Daichi Nobi estimated that the enemy that appeared this time was at least at the same level as the original little Tyrannosaurus Rex, or even stronger. But even so, Daichi Nobi had no intention of changing the little Tyrannosaurus Rex back to its original appearance to help them. Because now Daichi Nobi could not guarantee that the little Tyrannosaurus Rex was on their side. Who knows if the enemy that suddenly appeared was called by the little Tyrannosaurus Rex? What if they are in the same group? Then the current situation will only get worse. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.